Hello, and welcome back to Season 5 of the Fresh Finds Podcast, the show about discovering new music with good people. I'm Ryan, and this episode I'm joined by Kai, Simon, and Matt from the band TOED. How are we doing, guys?
Doing good.
Awesome. Good to hear.
Excited
Hell
to be
yeah.
here.
So, people who have watched the Fresh Finds podcast for a little while will know that TOED are no strangers to the show. You have been on before. However, there are a few fresh faces since then. So if you guys want to introduce yourselves, and then we can kind of get into the rest of the episode here.
Cool. Hello. I'm Simon. I'm the I sing for TOED. I do a little bit of writing. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Hey everybody, my name is Kai Althouse. I play a little bit of bass, play a little guitar, I sing a little, do backing vocals, yeah, that's my role in TOED.
What's going on? My name's Matt. I am recently kind of been involved with the band. I've been helping streamline some of the mixing and post-production aspects of the upcoming album. So excited to be here.
Nice. Yeah. And so kind of, I guess to start out, because it's, just as good a place as any, do you kind of, Kai, want to talk a little bit about how the TOED family has grown over the past couple of years? Because it really has been, it's not been, a revolving door so much as just more and more people getting added to the family. So what's kind of been the whole situation there?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can touch on that a little bit. TOED started out just me and some guys that I met at an open mic. We eventually brought in Jahan, our current bass player, and then eventually that led to Simon, who was buddies with Jahan. He came out to a show in New York and was just like, can I sing one of the songs? We popped him on the stage, and the rest was history. So from the early days, there was really a philosophy of utilizing all skill sets available. If one person could play guitar but also was great on bass or vice versa, we were going to explore all those different avenues and voices. With this project, we kind of brought Matt in as our mixer and masterer and to help with production and whatnot as a result of, just kind of life got in the way for some of us, and we needed some help.
Sure.
And we outsourced it to Matt, who's buddies from us from another band, Times New Roman, which I'm sure he'll get into. But yeah, Matt stepped in, has been a big help for us, and it's been fun. He's got a little different philosophy and approach to production, so it's kind of grown into this new TOED sound and collective that we're experiencing currently.
I feel like that's kind of a thing. This band is such a melting pot of different influences because there's so many people who kind of have, their fingers in the different aspects of it, whether it's songwriting, production, whatever else. And I think that that's part of what makes this band really unique. I was just listening to the singles so far from the new album, which we'll get to in just a second. But I was just listening to the singles that are out so far, and it is really interesting how diverse you guys are in terms of your sound and the types of influences that you pull from. How has the songwriting evolved since more and more people have joined the band? I'm sure the songwriting process has changed quite a bit.
Honestly, it kind of just goes by as needed. We set out to write an album to have however many songs. What is it, 8? And so initially it was just we were going to all write as many songs as we could and bring them to practice and see which ones we liked and use those. But we kind of tapped that well after a few of those songs. So then it just kind of...
Sorry. This is for everybody. She's chewing on the XLRs. So.
It kind of...
Honorary band member.
Yeah. Sorry, Simon.
We got to a point where it was well, we're not writing whole songs at home and we need something. So it just came to practice with an incomplete riff, and it'd be can anyone else do anything with this?
Sure.
And slowly but surely, you'd one practice would be just me and Kai, and now we have a bass and a guitar part, and then eventually Michael would hear the song, and it's just how is he going to add his layer to it? And so it's cool, you start with your own vision when you write one part of the riff, but it very quickly becomes its own thing entirely.
Takes on a life of its own in a way. Yeah, for sure.
And I completely agree with all that. We initially had set out basically a year ago. We did a trip to New York, and on the way back, we were like, we got to do something big. We've had singles, we've done an EP. We're going to start this process. So we initially set out to do 10 songs, 5 singles, and do like a waterfall release style.
Mm-hmm.
But time went on, and we realized how big of a bite that would be. And,
Yeah.
We made it to 4 singles, 8 songs. I mean, it's going to be a 40-minute 8 songs, so it's a healthy length still.
Oh, for sure.
But in terms of the writing aspect, there were some intentional sit downs between Simon and I primarily, where we were like, all right, we've got these ideas and we got to flesh something out more specifically, and then bring it to the band. But like Waste My Time, for example, is a really cool. That's not a single, but it'll be one of the better ones. Was one of the more recent ones. Matt just mixed, and it's sounding really, really awesome. So excited for that one to come out. But I came up with that riff for that song when I was in like middle school, and just never liked the words or melodies that I was coming up with. I brought it to Simon, and he laid down some just super powerful grungy vocals. Our drummer John at the end was like, let's throw in some odd time signature things here, and kind of sculpt how that outro happen. And then our bassist Jahan came up with this riff that went over that time. So that was a really interesting one, as collectively everybody wrote a good chunk to it. And it doesn't always happen that way, but we try to facilitate that in this process as much as possible.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing about bands that have longevity a lot of the time is you need to, if you're leaning on any one person too much and they kind of run out of gas, then that's kind of the project starts to run out of gas. But if you're able to, kind of bounce ideas off of each other, then there's a lot more that you're able to do collectively that kind of like, keeps the momentum going. 2024 was a little bit of a slower year for TOED compared to 2023 and what 2025 is going to be. Just, you guys took a little bit of a break from play because you had some sort of thing happen with your arm, right?
Yeah, I actually, I had to get labrum repair surgery. So that was a 6-month, process of got surgery and then PT, just like I could barely do this with my arm after that for weeks. I was in a sling for 6 weeks. So that kind of threw a wrench into at least music production, but we still booked a lot of shows and we played it a bunch. We played Arts, Beats, and Eats at the end of the summer, which is probably one of our bigger shows to date. But yeah, there was probably a month-long stretch there where we calmed down, but there was one show that we played at the Loving Touch about a year ago when I wasn't able to play, and we had to get some replacements. And I was more of like an MC / hype man, and that actually
really
worked.
fun.
It did work. It worked really well. But now I'm tied to that guitar and microphone again. So, but we might whip that out again in the future because that worked really well. But yeah.
I also think it's interesting that you brought up the fact that the riff for one of the songs was, something that you wrote forever ago. And that's something that I have always thought about as far as like creative endeavors and such. Is that a lot of people will write things and be like, oh, this is nothing, and kind of scrap it or whatever. But I feel like a lot of the time, you just have to wait for the right moment. And then, you've got something that you're able to kind of pull out of your back pocket as like, I never knew what to do with this, but finally it's the missing puzzle piece that just makes sense.
Yeah, I had it as Jack White riff in my laptop since forever. And I always knew I wanted to do something with it, but, here we are.
Yeah, I feel like, just to elaborate on that, like, just point in general, those are always sometimes the riffs that are like, I don't know what to do with it, but I know there's something here, and sometimes it's always about, just the right place and time and the right situation where it's like, you know what, this riff makes perfect sense right here with this group with, all these factors. So, I think that's awesome that, those riffs live on and you have that story to kind of tell about it.
I was going to say, like, and I can't speak for everyone, but like in personal experience, you don't forget those riffs either. Like,
Yeah.
like even if you don't record them, and like I'll learn songs and forget how to play them all the time just because I don't practice them or whatever. But like those riffs will just always be in your head.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something to be said about a melody that is rememberable.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like so many successful songs, you know, it just feels like butter listening to it. It's just so smooth. And I think, not to say that that's what Waste My Time is, you know, toot our own horn, but it's catchy, you know, so it sticks with you. I mean, I think National Anthem by Radiohead is a very similar thing. Like I've heard stories Tom York wrote that bass line when he was like quite young. But yeah, interesting stuff.
Yeah. And so, Matt, so you got involved on the production side of things. I don't know exactly how long ago, but you have obviously been involved for a little while. Kai also did a feature on the new Times New Roman album as well. So did that kind of come out of the fact that you guys were already kind of working closely together on some other things, and you just wanted to, do something else together, or what's kind of the story there? Because there is a little bit of crossover between these two bands at this point.
Yeah, for sure. So I've kind of been, I guess, involved in probably the past couple months. I want to say maybe 2 or 3. Kai initially approached me and was just like, hey, we've got these songs that we're working on. You know, I just, I'm ready for them to see the world. And I just, see if you'd be interested in kind of just helping me push this process along.
Sure.
But kind of backing up to that, Kai's feature on our song actually happened quite a while ago.
Oh, really?
So TOED and Times New Roman, our first ever show was played with TOED. And so they've always kind of been, one of those bands that we've created that mutual, relationship and respect for.
Sure.
Regardless of the genre, we're always there to support each other. And I think Kai heard the one song and was like, yo, this would be sick right here if I just, can I rap on this? Like there's a little breakdown part in one of these tracks and he's like, I have something that like I think would fit, and Kai came to the studio one time, or I actually probably before that. I think you hopped on to do it live first.
Yeah, I think we did it live a few times first before ever recording it.
Yeah, the first couple times he did it, everyone was like, "Yo, who was that? That was so sick! Like you guys got to put that on the record or like the final songs." Like, okay, obviously. So yeah. Fast forward a little bit, Kai eventually kind of, came over to our spot, recorded it, tracked it, and we just, everybody in the band loved it. It came out spectacular. And I think after that point, Kai had kind of seen, this other group of people that were creating music and stuff. And I think maybe that was probably the threshold, at least for me, was like, oh, like creating music with your friends is sweet, So it's like, regardless, I'm in this band, I'm in whatever, like I've got these projects, but ultimately, like we're just here to create. That's what we love to do. I think, Kai stepping in and saying, hey, like I got this for your song, and then eventually that probably led to, you saying, hey, well, we've got these songs, maybe like I want to see where your head's with it. So, and I don't want to speak for Kai, but I think that's kind of how I feel like that kind of conversation maybe started kind of developing. So
yeah, that's pretty much exactly it. I mean, I actually think Zach was the one who asked me, who was like, dude, I think it'd be cool to rap on this. And I was like, yeah, I'm down, man. Well, actually, first, I don't even think he knew I could rap. And I actually think he was kind of taken aback when I was like, dude, I can rap on it.
It was at that Loving Touch show when you spit bars. And it was like, what the heck,
this
dude?
white boy is just going to
where
start rapping right now? Who does he think he is? Eminem? Like,
exactly,
what the fuck?
exactly. But yeah, and I remember doing one particular show with you guys, and it was like a hardcore venue, like a house venue. Like they definitely had more punky hardcore bands.
Yeah.
I was the only one not in black. I was wearing a DCFC hat and like gym shorts. And I was like, oh man, it's going to be weird when I first get up there. But then by the end, it had hit. It had won everybody over, and it was just so fun.
That's how Fred Durst used to dress.
Yeah. Now that you mention it, it was very Fred
channeling
Dursty.
his inner Fred Durst.
It was super applicable.
But yeah, in terms of getting him involved in the production aspect, is just things we needed somebody to help out finishing production, and from my experience with that, and hearing the other Times New Roman albums, which the mixing is just so crisp.
Oh yeah.
you know, if he was down, it wasn't a second thought, you know. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think that it's really interesting having showing off the merch here. You got to give that the Vanna White treatment
sexual,
here.
Yeah, real sexual.
But I think that there's also something to be said for somebody who specializes production-wise maybe in like a different genre or a different style, kind of putting their stamp on the type of stuff that you guys do, because it does kind of make it stand out a little bit. It still feels the same in a way to old TOED stuff, but also there's like a little bit of a different energy to it as well, which is interesting to me.
Well, I appreciate you noticing that, because I feel like Simon and I have had those thoughts. Like, it's definitely still TOED, but it's new. Like, we used to have saxophone in the band. That's gone now. But I feel like there's still that energy. I don't know. What do you think? Same idea, more or less, but growing?
Yeah. I mean, I can't speak for your own songwriting process, but like I remember when I started, I had very limited understanding of music in general. I mean, I still do, to be honest. I kind of just write songs off vibes.
Just kind of wing it.
Yeah, I'm lucky. Like I have pretty good pitch, so when I come up with something in my head, I can figure it out on the bass, you know. But I don't actually know any theory or anything like that.
So is the bass the instrument that you would say that you feel like the most comfortable with outside of like your voice?
Mm-hmm.
That's
how I write any song, is with a bass riff first.
And I think if you go back and listen to like Cosmic and The Kitchen, very bass-centric songs, those were songs that were Simon's brainchild, children primarily. You start to notice that type. Same with like Pick Up the Phone, which will be the last song. Well, last song we're finishing up on the album. Similar idea.
But if you listen to those songs, you will also notice that the bass riff stays the same, the entire song. Like it literally
interesting.
It just is one like 8-second riff I came up with.
One bass loop and then it just keeps going
over and over and over again. So like these new songs, I'd say, are more dynamic, like I have more understanding and I'm able to communicate with others in the band that like, hey, maybe the song should change pace here or like go in this direction. It doesn't just have to be repetitive and, as simple, I guess.
Sure.
But simplicity isn't bad. I do really love a good simple song you can get hypnotized by.
Yeah, I think that there's something about that too, where like, sometimes things will get a little overcooked.
Exactly.
And sometimes you just need to know when to rein it back. So it really is about finding that balance.
You just got to do what each song needs.
Exactly.
And looking for more or less is, just go according to each song. Yeah.
Because I think for me creatively, a big part of what scratches my itch is expanding my musicianship. Like, I've learned something new, let me put that into a song. But at the same time, I think, especially in like funk and blues music, nice.
Party
Yeah.
It's just didn't want it to get on the XLRs.
Good move. In that type of music, pocket and rhythms that are not complex, I feel like is very important to the listener being able to relate to what is being played.
And just being able to kind of groove to it.
Being able to feel it and being able to groove, I think, is an underrated... I think it's why people like Tom Petty wrote so many just classic songs. I feel like... I think he called it complex simplicity, where it's like... it's witty, it's catchy, but it's not trying to do too much. So I think TOED is, we try and do a little bit of that.
Well, and also ultimately, funk is dance music too. So you were talking about, being able to move. Like, progressive funk is definitely a cool thing. I like it a lot. But there's also something about just, being able to get the dance floor moving a little bit.
Yeah.
And I mean, at the end of the day, like, if we want to be artists professionally, or, I hate that I have to work a second job. I wish I could just be writing music all the time. And to get to that point, you got to make music that general audiences relate to, not just music theory nerds, Yeah. And that comes with simplicity, because people just want to move their heads and dance.
But I also I think I know a decent amount, and I teach guitar lessons and do that type, but I'm not a Joe Satriani virtuoso. I couldn't write John Mayer-esque music if I wanted to, just because that's not where my brain is at. So I think there's a balance between me trying to expand my ability in playing and knowledge, and also what I can write in this current moment. And I just, try to accept that and produce what I find to be enjoyable and groovy and,
Well, it's also interesting that you bring that up with, like, kind of the modern age of musicianship. And, you were talking about, wanting to be a professional musician at some point, not having to work another job and such. And social media is often like an outlet that people will go to for that. But it's weird because the type of stuff that tends to do well on social media is like the shreddy virtuoso type shit. But that's not the type of stuff that you're going to necessarily go back to time and time again and, listen to on loop for like 3 times because you're like, it's just so damn good. That's the type of stuff that you're like, oh yeah, that's really cool and impressive. Swipe. Like, so there's something interesting about that too that I just thought of,
I think there are like different classifications of virality in terms of like musicians on social media, because there are people who are hopping on a trend that's already existing, like those LeBron covers or whatever, like plenty of bands made covers about LeBron and posted videos, and like those were very successful videos, millions of views. But those viewers are just swiping on to the next video. They're liking it and they're not checking out, they're not interacting with that band at all.
Yeah.
And so like you get a lot of those shreddy virtuoso, like really handsome people playing and they've got people commenting and liking, but then you go to their monthly listeners and they don't have anyone interacting with their stuff. So I think like on social media as a band, the challenge is really like creating something that is unique, that like a presence that people have a reason to tune into beyond music. Like there's got to be some sort of novel entertainment value.
Yeah.
And I think the most successful bands on social media have found that, like Wolfpack or I'm trying to think of like Vampire Weekend, just people who tap into that weird marketing.
Wolfpack is a great example of that, though, because they really have their own vibe. Like, you see one of their videos, and you know who it is the minute
it's
you
like
see it.
It's like on old tape.
Exactly.
And it's all DI'd stuff,
Yeah.
The chords everywhere.
Just the driest, the driest production you've ever listened to, but it's like the music still shines through.
But that compartmentalized virality that Frey is coming through the tarp. It's like hitting my back from through the tarp. That compartmentalized virality Simon's talking about, like there's definitely your guitar technician, your Tim Henson, who is, their appeal is presenting proficiency in musicianship. Like beyond the guy who like does the that type of guy.
America's Got Talent guy.
But then you've got the skit guy who's he's out talking to public people, holding up signs like "Come dance with me," and I'm gonna play my, And then there's people who are trying to engage with emotion, so they show videos of a breakup, and they just play their song in the background to try. So there's all these different ways to try and appease an algorithm, and I think a lot of people, no shame to them. That's what you got to do. But I think at a certain extent, for me in this process, I needed to stop thinking about the content and just like live in the moment and make the music, enjoy the time I get to play and rehearse and do this insane thing that we get to do with each other. I still want as many people to see it as possible, but I think at the end of the day, that's not what it's about.
No, I would agree with that.
I think when we're not recording an album, it'll definitely be easier to have a little focus on that aspect of the band. But we've definitely been less active on social media since we started this whole project.
And I think it's interesting too, just having talked to other people who also do kind of the social media game and for trying to promote music. I also think that it's interesting how there is actually, like, a lot of people think like, oh, it needs to be studio quality, whatever, but there's actually like a much larger market as far as turnover for just like live videos with just like the camera audio. And I think that the thing behind it, as far as I can tell, is that you hear something and you go, oh, that's kind of cool, but you're not able to listen to it and just know that that's what the song sounds like. So you have to do the extra step to go onto whatever streaming service or whatever you use to listen to music and look it up, and that's your hook to actually having it, transfer over to real listeners.
It's an opt-in process.
Exactly. Yeah.
I've found a ton of bands, like guys that are like, touring level, but not like super famous, because they followed me on Instagram when they came to Detroit. And then then they unfollow you when they leave. Yeah. But it's just like,
see, that's
special.
The lame part of it. I hate that. That's so lame.
It's like, whoa, they see me, and then you go check out their band, and they have no idea who you are. It's just they just saw Detroit in your bio, like.
Or they just like, oh, you like this band? They just look at all the followers, like boom, 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 boom. Like,
there was a little while where I literally would do that, like every time I would drop an episode, just because
it worked.
It did for a little while, but I was also like, this is also kind of lame. I never unfollowed anybody, so like if you look at like the Fresh Finds Instagram account, I'm following tons and tons of just like random ass accounts because it was like, oh, they're also following this band that I talked about, and so I'm just gonna follow, whatever. But
I mean, I think in the social media age, there's nothing wrong like with exploring those things that you've been told via the number of marketing music people work, and like they are trends in and of themselves. The algorithm changes daily. Like what is successful now is not what was successful in 2020. And I mean, it's to nobody's fault to try and do those things to get followers, but I mean, it does feel a little disingenuous to like follow a bunch of people that unfollow them the second they.
I will also say, like, there are plenty of successful social media campaigns that do just follow the algorithm or whatever trends are right now. And those genuinely work. They get people numbers. They like help in every aspect. But I feel like the ones that resonate with you and the ones that like, I guess, stand the test of time are the ones that genuinely don't follow any trend and present to you something completely new. Like, the best thing I can think of is like, I love the group Odd Future.
Classic. Yeah.
And I found out about them because of Loiter Squad, which is like one of the weirdest shows I've ever seen in my life. And I think like, if they hadn't done Loiter Squad, they wouldn't have stuck with me as much, if that makes sense.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's so interesting because I knew of them prior to Loiter Squad. And Loiter Squad was just like a cherry on top. I was like, this is going to be so cool. I'm a little older. But yeah, that's awesome.
I don't know. I always think that this is an interesting conversation because it is something that in the modern landscape, like everybody kind of has to deal with, and we all have, our different perspectives on it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting because it's like at the end of the day, like we just want to make music.
We
don't
care about this shit.
About having to do this whole other side of it. And it's like it comes so so foreign, it's like, I know how to play the guitar, but I don't know how to tell people I play the guitar, and like that aspect of it alone is just like, it's so like, I don't know, just a whole new beast that's like, just
like
that's a tough thing to tackle.
There's no shortage of amazing musicians and creatives who just don't know how to use
Instagram.
Nobody knows them,
Well, I mean, it reminds me of something that I've been seeing over the past couple months, which is this dude who has like a whole keyboard rig, and he walks around New York City and just gets random people to like rap on his beats that he makes on the fly.
He's so talented.
He is, and also just like random people on the street, and it's like it really is, kind of, showing this, independent DIY scene that I personally am so passionate about. Really, it shows you that some of the most talented people that you will ever hear are stuck working a 9-to-5 day job because they just don't know how to advertise themselves or whatever.
I also don't want to bitch too much about it because we are in a time where you have the opportunity to market yourself.
100%.
Any normal person can. It's just really difficult, and it's always been difficult. It's been difficult to get on the radio before social,
But I do think, what if I could just walk into a studio and pay them $25, and they'd be like, "Yeah, we'll get you on the radio," like Johnny Cash.
Here is your money. The phones are the way.
Well, that's the thing about like the DIY aspect of it is like, yeah, like I now have to play multiple roles of like I feel like, you know, at some point it was just like, yeah, like I show up to a studio, I got some songs, let's record and like let's ship it, you know. You had other people that were, you know, on behind the scenes, you know, running that side thing. But yeah, it's just like a lot more just information. It's like, okay, well, how, like, you almost have to like calculate the music aspect of it. It's like, well, you know, like, how is this going to work if we do this? Like, is this going to see the light of day if we do this, you know? And like, you almost have to take like calculated steps, but like, it's completely independent from like the music, which is like, that's the like the caveat, I guess, or like the spot that I think like a lot of bands kind of just like see the frustration with, you know. So
it is funny to think that there are like millions and millions of people who are fans of bands not because of the music, because something else captured their attention.
It's kind of funny, You know, going off of what you were just saying though, I do want to give you a second to like shout out everything that you've been doing. Are you taking on like any new clients or gigs or anything with your production work right now that you might want to shout out?
Yeah, well, so I'm in another band called Times New Roman. We're kind of like a punk and hardcore project, and I really kind of wanted to, you know, learn the process of making an album. So, you know, I did, you know, I did some, you know, educational, like, you know, stuff. I, you know, went to seek down that rabbit hole of learning the production process from start to finish. And I really wanted to start by, you know, I want to see my music see the light of day in the way I vision it, you know?
Yeah.
But I also wanted to have like, you know, that parallel quality to like, okay, well, I'm listening to my favorite band on the radio. Like, I want my music to stand up to that. So that's kind of what started this whole like thing. And after getting the Times New Roman album out, which just kind of came out in the past 2 months, or a month ago, actually.
Yeah, that was March 28th, so that was, you know, a little over a month ago, but not quite.
It feels like forever ago, because we started it, you know, a year or so ago.
Yeah.
But
that's also another weird thing with the internet is just how fast people move on from things, too. Is it's like, you know, a month feels like practically a year in internet time, right?
Absolutely. So. But yeah, no, so after that out, like, that was my number one priority is like, I just want to understand the process. I want this album for my group to be, you know, the best I can possibly make it be, you know, and with the knowledge I have now and the experience I have now, you know, there's always going to be a what if and what could you do better. But, you know, at the time of day, it's like, I did the best I can and I'm proud of what I made, you know,
for sure.
And all of us, you know, and that's not, you know, but so now that that's out, I've, you know, Kai's given me this opportunity to kind of sit with, you know, them and start looking at other things. So I just kind of have opened the doors to clients and stuff like that. Like I'm kind of slowly starting to work into, you know, wanting to do this more like as a regular thing. And, you know, obviously like as a musician and someone who just is so passionate about this stuff, like it's been a dream of mine since I was a kid to, you know, play rock star or just be in the music industry, right? So, you know, now that I've like kind of done it for myself and I'm happy with it, and now that I'm starting to branch out and like do it for other groups, it's like, you know what, like, yeah, like I do think this is just so fun and like it's just so much like there's so much passion and just like help people create their visions, you know? So like, you know, talking with Kai, I'm like, hey, how do you hear this song like in your head? Like I want to make sure I capture like your vision the best I can, and like, you know, running everything off like Kai and Simon to be like, give me your notes, I want your feedback, I want to hear how you hear this so I can best represent that for you guys. So that's kind of been my philosophy as of late. And yeah, I'm definitely starting to, the doors are now open. The floodgates are open. So,
well, he is also, as soon as the TOED album is done, is going to be producing, mixing and mastering my solo EP project, which is an acoustic, you know, singer-songwriter type deal.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. So that's a 4-song little track. He'll be helping with that as well.
Nice.
So, you know, pay him to mix your shit like that. You can't go wrong. Matt is the man, really knows his stuff.
Yeah, and the fun thing about this too is like, yeah, so like Times New Roman was like my group, you know, like aside from TOED, I should say, but like, you know, that was our project, and I'm heavily involved with like my vision of the song. So then when I'm looking at like the TOED tracks, you know, I can take that whole element out of the mix. You know, it's like, oh, well, like I didn't write this song. I'm not as emotionally attached to it because I didn't create it, you know, but I'm emotionally attached for you guys, you know, and I want this to be like, you know, your vision. So
that's another interesting thing that I very rarely get to talk about because I don't often have producers who weren't part of the songwriting process. Oh boy, the set's starting to fall apart.
Stop it. She's gone.
But I don't often have people who produce the project who also weren't part of like the songwriting process on the podcast. And it really is interesting how many hurdles you go over when you're just mixing your own music, because you know, whether it's your voice or your guitar or whatever, you're like, oh, this is something that I fucked up, and so I want to bury it.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if you are listening to somebody else and you hear like, oh, there's like a little flub or something like that, you're like, that adds character. I actually want to emphasize that a little bit. And there's a really weird duality to that side of music production to me.
Well, yeah, and just getting that a fresh set of ears, man.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, there's definitely stuff that like I hyper fixated on. It's like this one little vocal trill like is driving me insane. Guarantee you, nobody knew that existed. They hear the song, they're like, I don't even know. Like, but yeah, like looking at somebody else's project, like I'm just like, no, dude, it sounds good. Like, it's like let's enhance this. Let's emphasize it. You know, like I get to take myself out of the. Well, I know I like, oh, this line, like, we battled over, you know, or we argued over, like, this line or something like that. Like, there's, like, such a, like, separation to it where it's, I can focus on the song and what my, like, mind goes to when I hear it. Like, oh, I hear the way, like, okay, this grooves, like, okay, it should be a little bit more, you know, spacey or just kind of, like, vibey, or, like, oh, the guitars are a little bit more aggressive. Well, let's push it, you know, let's make the track scream a little bit, you know, let's make it kind of, so, like, that's what it all is just, like, it's enhancing the song to the best of your ability and making the song come to, like, its best form. You know, sometimes the song speaks for itself. So,
and being able to not get quite so in your head about it when it's not your
100%,
baby
100%
also helps a ton. Because like I said, I've also, you know, done some mixing work for some other people, and it really is funny how often people are like, yeah, I'm not so sure about this, not so sure about that, and you listen to it, you're like, this is sick.
Yeah,
like you've just been listening to it too much. You just hate it because you've been listening to it nonstop for 5 months.
Yeah.
Like,
well, at what point, from a producer side of things, so question for you, Ryan and Matt, do you tag your reputation upon the mix? Like, at a certain point, I mean, it can't just solely be, it's their project, they're going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Or do you not really have that side of maybe that's me just thinking with ego, like, this is what is better than what they're asking for, you know?
So this is something that I find really interesting. Personally, for me, if I'm mixing somebody's music, I love, you know, people will send like reference tracks, like, oh, I want it to sound like this band, that band, the other band. Something that I personally do is I will do an initial mix without listening to that reference track, just so that I can find what I think the song sounds like. And then if they want to emphasize something that I wasn't really thinking of, then sure, we'll listen to, you know, the reference tracks and things like that. But personally, I want to listen to just the tracks themselves and almost let the music lead me to where the song feels like it wants to be. If that makes sense.
It makes sense. Very interesting.
Yeah, no, and I definitely, same way, like, I usually ask, like, hey, is there a vibe or a song that, like, relates to kind of what you're trying to capture here? And again, like you just said, Ryan, like, yeah, let the song speak for itself. I usually do kind of like my initial pass through of like, here's where my head's at when I hear the song. Yeah. And then at some point before, like, for the past couple of songs, for example, like, up until, like, the last point where I'm ready to send you like revision 1, then I'll go ahead and reference and be like, okay, now like, am I in the right ballpark of where they want to take the song initially, or am I completely off? You know,
Yeah,
do I have
just
to go
completely
back
with
and,
it.
So, but yeah, no, it is cool because like, yeah, no, and I like how you brought up like, yeah, like ego aside thing. I think like, you know, ultimately like when you're producing music for other people, it's their artwork, and they are the ones who should be able to say like, yes, I'm proud of this, you know? And like, I think as producers, like it's our role to best represent that, you know? You can say, well, you know what? I don't think you're right, man. Like, I think the guitar should, you know, be louder, and, you know, I think the vocals should have distortion on it and like all these crazy effects, but it's like, that's not what the artist intended. So like, yeah, you might think that, and you know what? We can create our own mix, but like at the end of the day, your like role is to serve the artist's vision in their song. And I sound like a broken record with vision, but like, no, yeah, that's I think that's like really important to me.
Yeah,
It's like capturing that essence. So
Another aspect of that is I think from the inside, a lot of artists and bands are really bad at saying what bands they sound like, because you can be like, oh, I'm influenced by Tom Petty and the Beatles and, you know, whatever else, but then you don't sound anything like that. And so you think like, oh, these are the references that I need to send because this is what I was listening to, this is what I was drawing inspiration from. But it's your end result is nowhere near what those artists are. And I think that that's another interesting aspect of that is from an outside perspective, people who didn't have a part in the actual creative writing process can often bring you know, another perspective that's kind of like, you know, actually it sounds more like, you know, X band, Y band. It sounds more like Smashing Pumpkins than you know, the Beatles, but you know, whatever.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because I have personally experienced, and basically since I started making music, every single person telling me I sound like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You know, and I think it's because my vocals just are like a little Midwestern nasally, just like Anthony Kiedis, and they are one of my biggest, you know, inspirations, the like funk rock aspects. But so I've slowly but surely like attempted to try and like steer away.
Oh, interesting.
Try and do things that don't make people go, oh, they're just a Chili Peppers ripoff. Like, you know, because I mean, early on, my first band, Hotel Archie, we probably covered 3 Chili Pepper songs a night. All the other songs were songs that might as well have been Chili Pepper songs. So, you know, but you know, so that's where the funk rock blues becomes just like a stock phrase for me because TOED you could put us in alternative, you could put us in class, you know. So
well, and that's one of the things that I also really like about TOED is the fact that you guys are willing to kind of, you know, play with genre a little bit, do something that's a little bit more grungy, something that's a little bit more bluesy. I forget the name of the song, but one of the songs, actually, I think it was "Treat Me Right." Is just a straight up 12-bar blues. And it's like it's a great tune, and it doesn't need to be anything more than that. But you know, there are other times where it is, you know, you kind of put this, that, the other thing.
And we do have a straight 12-bar blues song on this upcoming album.
Nice.
So, you know,
When in doubt, for
when
real.
in doubt. It's also like first song of the night. It just busts out a blues. It'll instantly get everyone in the crowd moving their feet instantly. And then you've got them.
Well, because everybody knows the form.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you know, kind of almost like a jam session if you think about it a little bit. Because like in a jam session, you're going to start out with a basic, you know, some sort of standard or something that everybody's going to know just to get comfortable. And it's kind of almost the same thing with that, where even if it's a different song, a 12-bar blues, everybody knows the form. They know, all right, the turnaround's coming up. Yeah. We know, you know, whatever. And it's a good way to help people loosen up, which is really interesting.
And this ties back to our discussion earlier about, like, you got to get the audience tapping. If they can't feel that pocket, you've lost them. You've lost them. So, yeah.
All right. So, kind of before we move on to the next part of the episode here, because we are getting very deep into discussion, which I love. This always happens on the in-person episodes. It always, you know, devolves, but, you know, in a great way. But the debut self-titled LP, TOED, comes out on June 20th. Is that correct?
That is correct. I was ready to correct you on the 21st because that's when the release show is.
And then I was going to bring up, the 21st is the album release show, which is at the Loving Touch. And we're going to have this beautiful sign right here behind the stage the entire time.
Gotta love feet.
Is there anything else that you guys specifically want to bring up before we move on to the next part of the episode?
Well, other great local acts that we have a lot of respect for, Sancho and Strictly Fine, will be joining us for that
Fantastic
release.
bands.
I think probably by the time this episode is out, the 4th single, Out to Sea, it actually comes out next Friday, May 9th. That will be out for everyone to hear. And there are, 4 singles to this album. So half the album is already out. You can digest that. Anything else, Simon? I think,
Shout out my mom for buying this thing.
Independent musicians always be. All right. So moving on to the next part of the episode, we're going to share some new music, some fresh finds, if you will.
Hey, before we go, can I pee?
Never.
And can we make sure the camera, my phone, isn't out of...
I was going to say, I was actually about to check on that too, make sure that we're still recording on everything.
Several bad puns later.
So, my first song, let me pull up my notes because, but my first song is actually going to be from a kind of post-hardcore / emo type band from Oklahoma, and they have been getting a bit of traction over the last couple of years, kind of in the emo Twitter sphere that I'm largely a part of in my online presence. It's a band called King Pink, and they just released their EP Promises on May 2nd, and this was a single from that EP. This song is called Letting Go.
All I wanted was for you to see me and see why I do what I do. I never meant to hurt you, breaking away from what pains me. It's easy to blame myself. As
Letting Go by King Pink.
Dude, I love how that's just like straight up my wheelhouse of like the Midwest emo vibe. I love how those songs always just sound like they were recorded in a basement, but they're so tight and punchy and they still sound so good.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what draws me to that type of stuff as well, is the fact that you can hear some of the production things that you're like, oh, this is clearly not like multi-million-dollar studio recording, but at the same time, that's part of the charm of it.
Absolutely,
way,
dude. Yeah, that's like the aesthetic of that genre. It's like it very encapsulates like the DIY like aesthetic part of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, sounds awesome. So
those rolling drums and cymbal hits.
Yeah,
that was my favorite part.
These are a band
nice.
that I really want to see live at some point. They're like I said, they're from Oklahoma. I think that they're starting to get a little bit more traction because they it's one of those things. I don't want to say that they're like hitching their trailer to somebody else, but also like Oklahoma City DIY emo bands are really having a moment right now, and it's really interesting.
Interesting.
Like I don't know if either of you are familiar, if any of you are familiar with like Ben Quad.
oh yeah,
Okay, hell yeah. So like Ben Quad are really kind of like spearheading that, but there's another band called Red Sun that are kind of like
okay,
they're like their little brother band basically.
love it.
And these guys are like very much part of that scene as well. And I feel like you have one band that starts to punch above their weight level a little bit, and if they're smart, they start to bring up the bands that are around them, and that's kind of how I've found King Pink, and I just can't wait to see whatever is next for them.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah, that was awesome. So definitely going to be checking them out more.
Yeah, I also just like the kind of spacier kind of like bridge section was super fun, from like the riffier, more verse from like the first half. I thought that it was a cool switch up from being a bit punchier and riffier in the beginning to being a little bit more spacey later on.
Yeah, it's definitely got like more of that math rock element, with like the riffing and stuff. So
they also released a really cool project last year called Timelines. My favorite song off of that is actually the opening track. It's called Resin. And I think the funniest thing about it is, to me, because they've always kind of billed themselves as like, post-hardcore emo, but the vocal melody is so like early 2000s butt rock in the best way. And I love it.
I love butt rock.
I mean, anybody who knows me knows that I have a love for that kind of music. I put out a compilation album last year of a couple of different bands doing like butt rock, radio rock songs, and so like
awesome.
That spoke to me. I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
So
thanks for sharing, Ryan.
Yeah,
Jam.
but of course,
Jam.
I guess moving on, we're just gonna go. We were talking about this earlier. We're going house left to house right, so that's gonna give Simon the next tune here.
Okay, so this is a band that I played with in my other band called Bird's Eye View, and Bird's Eye View is like more of a grunge band, so we like to play with a little like louder, rougher bands. And I thought this
a little
band,
bit more raucous.
Yeah. This group, they're called General 11. They're from downriver in Michigan, like around Flat Rock area. And they are busy bees. They play it feels like they play every weekend. I see them posting about a show. Highly recommend you check them out. General 11. Their lead singer, Eric, super funny guy. I talked to him for a while. He was just genuinely a really funny guy. So if you can secure a conversation with Eric, I recommend it. But yeah, they're somewhere between, they call themselves alternative, but they're a little stronger than alternative in my opinion. So they're somewhere between grunge and alt. But yeah, this is an older song. It's called The Hunt.
Is that like Beetlejuice?
Yeah, we all just appear. And
Oh man, that is so groovy. I love it.
That was
That was sick.
I love me some hypnotic rock. Just a bass that really keeps the song moving.
I mean, that bass tone was the first thing that I noticed when when it first came on. I was just immediately like, yeah, this bass tone is so killer.
Dude, I feel like right when that bass came in, it was like I'm standing in a completely empty bar. There's smoke just covering the air, and the dude is just on stage, like, and it's just like, yep, here we are.
And
A
have the
singular
best
spotlight
night of my
with way
life.
more smoke than there should ever be in a dive
is
bar.
just a sticky floor full of beer,
Yeah.
like, and you are vibing. Like,
God, I wish it wasn't Sunday. We go find one of those bars.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, seriously.
And those guys are pretty young. I think
Yeah.
some of them were like younger than me. I'm only like 22, so
Oh,
Really?
yeah, those guys were.
Well, that's interesting to note too, because like that sound, like as the song was playing, we were all kind of like, yeah, that sounds like it came out of the '70s, or like it's like very like old Black Sabbath, like kind of like it's just like it does feel like it's an older sound, but I love that like resurgence because it's like
I think
That's what the kids are listening
in
to.
Detroit,
Yeah.
in Detroit specifically, there's a lot of that happening. It stems to the garage rock. I mean, a lot of people think like Jack White, but even farther back, MC5, Iggy.
Yeah.
Like, there's still a lot
Yeah.
Detroit Cobras.
Detroit Cobras, Electric Bug. You know them? This is a
Ooh.
band I saw recently, and I caught the bug.
Good
to
one.
say. But yeah, I mean, and I talked to the singer afterwards too, and I think it was just like because the PA was maxed out and it was a DIY, there was like a distortion effect on his
love
vocals.
it.
But I was like, dude, that was so sweet.
I think Sugar
Oh.
Tradition just went on tour with Detroit Cobras or something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Sugar Tea, baby. We haven't
But-
talked about them on the podcast in
Same-
a couple of years, but
same-
they are also very
They're
killer.
big.
Same vein. Same
Yeah.
vein.
They're doing really well.
It is really interesting. I mean, and I kind of talked about this a little bit, but Detroit is the one that I've obviously been more firsthand with. But it's very interesting how different cities have in their DNA just something about like everybody really loves to pull on this type of sound because we were talking about Black Sabbath, but we were also talking a little bit about like Iggy Pop and the Stooges and kind of like some more of that like garage rock, like proto punk type of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it is just really interesting seeing and hearing how the more things change, the more they stay the same in a way.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of has these influences and they develop, but also at the same time, you can trace that through line.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I think as a Detroit-based band who is not necessarily like I love Jack White, I love the White Stripes, but I'm not trying to be the White Stripes. I don't make
No.
that type of music, but waste my time. That started
It
as
still
like
seeps in a little bit.
I
So,
was like,
yeah.
this is something Jack White. I was thinking I must have been listening to Lazaretto a lot at the time because that's kind of the energy.
Great rock band song.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's
Bum,
also
bum, 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 bum.
But that's also like when I'm doing research about bands that are from other places, I always want to know where they're from because I find it really interesting to listen to like, okay, this is what's happening in this area, but what's the tradition that they're pulling from? And it, because I mean, even modern Seattle bands, Seattle has so much crazy, cool like alternative pop music and like that kind of stuff, but it's also like very much rooted in the grunge of 35 years ago. And I think that it's really cool just seeing how generations will pull off of the previous generation and kind of do their own thing with it, but also keep that same DNA.
Well, and I think with Detroit specifically, you
Yeah.
have 4, 5, 6 genres of which Detroit has been Goliath in.
Oh, yeah.
At one point or another, you got techno, you got hip hop, you got Motown, you got soul, you got garage rock. And as a place that is not super dense in terms of musical supply at the moment, I think we're very fortunate and lucky to experience a lot of unique styles that blend a lot of that. So Detroit's a great place if you're looking for music. Like any Saturday, like just go walk around Hamtramck, downtown Detroit. You're gonna find something awesome happening.
There's also something I think that's very interesting about just like the Detroit scene in general, which is that it's very big and very small at the same time. Because
everyone knows everyone.
Everyone knows everyone, but it's also very spread out.
So don't be a dick. Don't get pushed out.
Because the Detroit scene also goes all the way out to like Pontiac and Ann Arbor, which is
I'd say Ann Arbor counts for sure.
20 minutes to almost an hour drive away, depending on weather conditions.
Do you know Detroit by Detroit?
I'm not familiar.
So it's a yearly event it just happened like last weekend at Loving Touch, where they recruit Detroit bands to play bands who are famous with Detroit ties.
Oh, that's
really?
cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not familiar with that. How have I never heard of that before?
I saw Vern. Oh, what's his last name?
Vern O.J.
No, Vern. God damn it. Sorry, Vern. I forget your last name. He hosts the New Way open mic.
Oh, that Vern.
He's an incredible musician, vocally and guitar and everything. So incredible. But I saw him post a video of them playing it, and they were doing a Wolfpack song.
Oh,
and
all right.
I honestly was like,
I forgot they're from Ann Arbor.
and I was honestly like, that's Wolfpack. At first, I woke up out of some drunken stupor. I was watching my stories, and I was like, damn, Wolfpack. But it was just so tight and so Wolfpack, But yeah, and that's how I learned about Detroit by Detroit. So cool. You could even say the Chili Peppers have a.
Yeah,
Detroit.
Chad Smith went to my high school.
Yeah. And,
No way.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Anthony Kiedis lived most of his adolescence in Grand Rapids.
You know who else went to my high school? This is more of a niche band. Do you know Rob Cantor?
Rob Zombie?
No, I'm trying to think of his band. Have you ever seen the?
Oh yeah, we've had this.
Running for Your Life from Shia LaBeouf.
Oh, yeah.
What?
That guy went to my high school.
No
Yeah. He was a drum major at Andover High School.
Dude,
That's
incredible.
crazy.
Legendary.
But they were in a big band with like Marvelous Marvins on the cover of the
Tally
album.
Hall?
Tally Hall.
Oh,
Yeah,
shit.
Tally Hall. They formed at Ann Arbor.
Wow.
They
Dude,
formed-
yeah, I saw them at I
Yeah.
saw one of the guys at
Yeah,
Sonic
Rob
Lunch.
Cantor was like the bass
You know
player
the
or
moving
something.
Marvelous Marvins?
Yeah. I
Oh,
did
what a
see
shame.
that.
God damn.
Well, at least I think it'll still be around, but
That's so interesting.
what a fantastic tangent.
I love
did
it.
we
This
get
is
here?
the type of shit that only happens when you're a couple beers deep and you're
know.
recording in person.
I know,
I
man.
love it.
I do want to say, Ryan, some of the more fun musical experience I've had via the Fresh Finds discussions. So
I
appreciate what you do.
Oh, but of course.
You ever see? Sorry to cut you off. You ever see Channel Zero? It's like when Kanye, way back in the day, when he was like a
Okay.
youngin',
Sure.
was like not famous. There was a local broadcast channel in Chicago called Channel Zero. Like someone just bought a public broadcast, and they would film every night, like just rappers underground,
Dang.
like
Oh, that's cool.
just freestyling and like giving them their bios to the public broadcast. And it started just like with 10 people watching every month, but eventually it became like Chicago's MTV. And
Wow.
Yeah, I'm gonna go on my little speech here a little bit, but honestly, like that's the type of stuff. Not that specifically because I had never heard of it, but that's the type of stuff that I am so inspired by when
Yeah.
doing this. Is all of the local, local music promotion and music, publication stuff that really just talks to the bands that, the mainstream won't talk to. Like we were on the last episode that I just finished editing, which is hopefully going to come out this Tuesday. God, I hope it does. But Final Cut has been fighting me recently, so we're kind of in a duel right now. But we were talking about a local that I believe is based out of Chicago or maybe Southern Illinois, but a local music magazine that has been going for a little over a year now. And I think that it's cool seeing a resurgence of the local music scene, magazine, podcasts, broadcast, whatever stuff that's just covering the stuff that the mainstream won't cover, and I love that so much.
Well, sorry.
No, you got it.
Well, I think a lot of people are realizing in this, dystopian social media world that we live in, that if you want to create stuff like that and be a part of the scene, you have to mesh with your localities, and nobody makes it to the big time. I mean, I guess maybe you can say via nepotism, but all of that big time major label originates from
the underground.
We're talking Kanye on a fucking 2 a.m. PBS stream, you just got to do it.
Exactly.
And it's a beautiful thing when a community can flourish from that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So what I was going to say, pretty much, piggybacking off that, I think just it's so just glamorized, the stardom and the mainstream, it almost feels so just not real,
Yeah.
And so to people who are just trying to do this in their own right, it just it feels so unattainable because of how much just scrutiny and attention everybody is always constantly under. But at the end of the day, everybody talks shit about that whole aspect of the music industry and this, that, and the other thing. But it's that's why it's really important that we find each other, that we all are working towards this common goal of we love music and we love passionate people and we love this whole DIY scene, because it's at the end of the day, what, everybody just wants to feel like they can express themselves, you know, and just get that out to the world. And it's I'm sure everybody has aspirations of dreaming big and I want to be playing Madison Square Garden, it's but yeah, like you said, Ryan, you have to start from some kind of underground scene, and if you never get that relationship with your scene, then what's gonna, or what's that's what's preventing you from getting into the world kind of thing,
Who's rooting for you?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And this is a topic of discussion that has come up a lot on one of my other favorite DIY music podcasts. Shout out to Five at the Door, my buddy Chrissy, total homie, based in Nashville. But he kind of is so many people talk about kind of the DIY scene, and it almost feels like it's evolved recently in a very good way, where it's, instead of do it yourself, it's do it together.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a very community oriented way. And I think that that's really what we've all kind of been missing over the last 10-ish years or so.
If I could give some unsolicited advice
To who?
to anyone who's listening
Beautiful.
and into music, I feel as though I might not be paying my bills, but I've made it because I have musical community. I have people who are excited to hear my music, and I have people who I'm excited to hear their music. And if you find yourself in that camp, whether you're making money or not, enjoy the time you got, because that's what making it is.
Yeah, it's just it's so important to have that support system. And we could be playing completely different styles of music, but it's I respect what you do at the root of it. And that's what's so important,
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. I know this is supposed to be our listening session. So
Look, it's fun. I love it. It is your turn, Kai. So
yeah, let's do
turning over the floor to you.
Let's do Maxwell Rincon, guy I met recently through the open mic circuits, Ghostlight primarily.
All right.
He recently opened for Marcus King.
Ooh.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so he is incredibly talented, great voice.
Standing on the edge of my prime, so many dreams and precious wasted dimes. I've waited all this time, and finally it's mine. Will I make or break this life? Forgo and throwing that to the wind. Painting my sails with cheap lead paint. A moment is all it takes. Will I catch that wind or will I just fade away? Will it be the one today? Will I run or brave whatever's in my way? Selling my soul, my ideals, sell it all away for that precious pay stub today. Will I stumble? Will I fall? Will I be the king of it all? I know who I want to be. Who will I be? I'm waiting for something to change my mind. They say people change, you're the same every time. I'm sick of all this wasted time. But contrary to you, you don't occupy my whole mind. But contrary to you, I will not give in when I try. Contrary to you, I won't turn my back on what's mine. But contrary to you, you will not define my whole life.
Dude, that acoustic just sounds so like crisp. Like,
Dude, this man took me on a journey.
He did,
And
he
I
did.
loved it.
I think it took us all on a journey.
Yeah.
I met him through the open mic circuit at Ghostlight, and he lives in Detroit currently. He is based in Columbus originally, I believe.
Oh, really?
Went to Ohio State.
Boo!
Yeah, great.
Sorry, my own personal biases are showing.
It's a good school. It's like the fourth or fifth worst in the Big Ten. So
We're all from Michigan, so
Yeah.
that's makes sense.
yeah. No, I have no actual disdain against. It's fun to hate on him, but But yeah, he's an incredibly talented guy, and I dig the sound, and yeah.
So when he plays at the open mic, is it like solo acoustic or does
It's
he
solo.
have?
I've not seen him with his band, but he does play with a band.
Oh, he's got both. Okay,
He does
cool.
play with a band. I don't know if around this area they do as much as the band, because I think they're all in Columbus.
Okay, so the band's still based
yeah.
in Columbus.
Yeah.
But he's here in Detroit still.
Yeah, but
Interesting.
I think
okay.
he did. But he goes. I think he travels around. Columbus isn't that far.
No, it's not.
but
couple hours.
He did So Far Sound Detroit recently.
Oh,
Okay,
nice.
sure.
No way.
Yeah, and, I mean, he obviously opened for Marcus King. I think he just won an Instagram battle of the bands and just got to open for Marcus King. I did see that he was just him and his acoustic guitar for that. Yeah, great sound.
Somebody told me, one of my relatives, just hearing Marcus King's name, one of my relatives told me that I look like Marcus King one time.
A little bit.
And I thought it was funny.
Toss on a cowboy hat and some of those glasses.
Yeah, right?
But yeah, Marcus King, modern day guitar hero. I think him and Billy Strings got to get. They get a lot of love, but I think they need more love.
Billy
because they're just
motherfucking
doing it
Strings,
right.
baby!
They're just
Dude,
doing it
yeah.
right.
So my cousin's husband is first cousins with Billy Strings.
What?
Like,
So-
it's like
so
however
5
many
times
steps
removed?
But yeah, like
Heard it from a friend.
yeah, exactly.
Heard it from a friend.
He was like, dude, my cousin's in this band. Like, you may have heard of him. So it's like, oh no shit, dude. Like,
Yeah,
That's
they just
funny.
sell out all venues around the world, you know?
yeah, like
My-
no big deal.
My great aunt's sister married Sonny after he divorced Cher.
No
Wow. And then he died in a ski accident.
So now we're just playing 5 Degrees of Kevin Bacon.
My sister went to Interlaken. Kevin Bacon went to Interlaken. That's
Oh,
my
bingo.
He went
That-
to Interlaken?
yeah.
I didn't know that.
But
that's my degree.
Is that the Kevin Bacon complex? Or?
Like in Michigan?
Yep.
That's crazy.
But getting back on track to this, that was a fun
Yeah,
tangent.
sorry.
But I do have to rein us in at some point.
Yeah.
But I love how that grows. Like it starts out kind of like the solo acoustic thing, and I'm like, all right, cool. And then there's that great build into
Yeah.
that one big that bend there.
Yeah.
That is such a fantastic build into like this kind of like this bigger sonic world, this
Yeah.
bigger sonic identity.
That's how I write my music. Like I love to do the sad acoustic and then build to this big grandiose.
Yeah.
I very much steal it from Phoebe Bridgers. I got a little print on the wall
Sure,
over there.
okay.
I'm a
Kinda-
big
Oh
fan.
yeah.
You familiar with Benson Boone?
I was
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
say, yeah,
Kinda
that,
Okay,
that
all
outro.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it does sound like that. Damn.
Dude, but yeah, I like.
Can't say
love-
I'm a Benson Boone fan though.
Yeah.
if I'm
Okay.
being honest.
I love that the whole song. It was just like, all right, we're here, like we're vibing, you know. And then like it seemed like it was on its close, and then it was like, ha ha ha, guess what, suckers?
But
Like,
wait, there's more.
Yeah,
Call
like-
in the next five and a half
and then it
minutes.
came back like twice as strong, like you know, just like bad at it. The distorted guitars come in, like it just
Yeah.
that huge outro. You know, I think that's sick. It's almost like two like separate songs
Yeah,
in its own,
yeah.
you know. But like it really like that section. I love when artists do that because like that section of the song makes you appreciate the beginning half that much more because it's like. Oh, I know it's coming, but like it
All building
gives
to
like
something.
its own right to that first like sad acoustic part. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like okay, well, there's a different emotion in this, and then it just boom explodes at the
Mm-hmm.
end. You know, like
And ultimately, I think that that's what I'm looking for in a lot of music is kind of Jimmy Page always talked about it as like the light and shade, and you need to find a balance between the two, and that has always kind of seeped into my philosophy of how good music is made is kind of having the heavier stuff mixed with kind of the lighter stuff at the same time.
Dynamics. I feel like there's a lot
Yeah.
of bands that can struggle with using intensity and volume as an emotional tool.
If
And I
you're
think-
heavy all the time, then
Yeah.
nothing sounds heavy. You
Yeah.
need something to contrast.
Same if you're just like finger plucking really quietly. You need to influx, add
Yeah.
something. Even if it's just like slightly more intensity, I think like a lot of Bob Dylan songs, he's not ripping it on the chorus, but the passion that he infuses can really
okay,
make
yeah.
those lyrics really
the chorus
that
like feels
yeah.
so much heavier.
And
like,
the themes and the points he's making, it's beyond his writing at that point.
I also, speaking of, we were talking about like local influences and stuff like that, being a kind of Detroit-based artist, question mark at the end of that statement. But, I was also vocally getting a little bit of like Bob Seger influence
Yeah,
too, which I
absolutely.
thought was cool. Kind of the more mellow side of Bob Seger's catalog.
I mean,
but-
Pine Knob's, the road into Pine Knob is literally Bob Seger
Yeah, it's
Road.
like-
I think he counts as
Yeah.
He sold out the Palace like 40 straight. He's our
Rest in
Bruce
peace to the
Springsteen.
Palace.
Yeah,
yeah,
he's our Bruce Springsteen. He's a Detroit guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was at the draft.
Yeah, he's still alive. My brother and sister-in-law are huge Seeger fans, and I know Seeger, but I don't like intimately know him. And they're always
sure.
like, "You got to just listen to every song he's ever done."
Yeah, well, I mean, if you want to intimately know him, you got to buy him a drink first.
Oh, shit. Well, Bob, if you're
Robert.
watching,
Balls in your court.
Offer stands. Yeah.
it does. I'll sing you a ditty. All right, what's
Beautiful.
next?
Moving on, Matt. You've got one here.
All right, so yeah, I'm gonna plug my band real quick.
Shameless self promotion.
Yeah, you know when in Rome, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, my group is called Times New Roman. We're kind of like a skate punk, pop punk, hardcore, melodic hardcore, you know, anything in that, I guess, vein. But yeah, this was I don't know if this was the first song we wrote for the album. It was definitely one of them. But it is the first real track off of our latest album called Beneath the Breaking Waves, which...
Fantastic record, I will say, from a non-biased source.
Thank you. Yeah, we've been working on this album for like, it seems like the past year. You know, all four of us, like, that's just it, you know, guitar, bass, and drums. And we wanted to keep it true to us. We wanted to keep it true to everyone's, like, kind of draws and inspiration. So this, to me, personally, is, like, my kind of, like, cliff notes of like the sound of Times New Roman. You know, it's got elements of skate punk, it's got elements of pop punk, it's got gang vocals, it's got you know, just the more hardcore kind of stuff. But yeah, the song's called Fate, and yeah, I'm excited for you guys to hear it.
And now I was about to, crowd kill Simon over here just in my chair listening to that.
Also, 12 Point as a debut project for a band called Times New Roman is just so creative and artistically perfect.
I have beef with you about that, actually, because we recorded the last TOED episode, and I think it was Kai specifically played a song off of 12 Point, and it's impossible to Google. Think about search engine optimism. 12 Point Times New Roman? I couldn't find shit about that on Google.
We used to say, the default font.
I never, until this moment, I never thought of, that makes total sense. So that might
I was literally working on the edit, and I always just kind of go to Google Images or whatever to try and find the highest quality version of the album art when I'm making my graphics, and I'm I can't find anything because it's literally all about how to write essays.
It's also ironic that
that's the next project.
but it's not Times New Roman. Some other font.
Somebody else pointed that out too. I posted something on Twitter about it, kind of bitching about it, and somebody's it's also really funny that the font on the cover is not Times New Roman.
Yeah, well, who gives a fuck about an Oxford comma?
Well, because we're not actually a font. We're a hardcore band.
It's actually the Times of the New Romans.
Dude, it is the Times of New Romans.
Oh, interesting. We're just being efficient about it.
All right, we should probably start listening to more songs if we're gonna get home by.
I will say though, I love the gang vocals. I love the kind of switch up about halfway through.
The breakdowns are so tight.
The breakdown going into the guitar solo is so much fun. Just this entire project,
thank
I'm
you.
into it.
Very, very, very much appreciated.
It's also kind of funny. I was looking through, and you know how on streaming services you have the ability to heart or or whatever different songs off of albums. It's kind of funny because I like the whole album, but the only song that I have liked specifically is the interlude Trapdoor.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that dude, we wanted to create some that one Ethan actually brought to us. He's really into the modular synth stuff. Yeah, and it's sick because he was just dude, this would be sick as a segue interlude thing. And we were let's get dirty with it. Let's make it super trappy, so yeah, Ethan brought that to the table, and the way it flows into the next song is kind of just all right, a little anticipation, but yeah, then that's one also specifically is that dictates the B side. We very clearly wanted to be we thought about this album as it's a record, there's an A side, there's a B side. We were very intentional about that ideology behind the project.
Well, that's interesting because I don't think we've thought about it as A side, B side as more of a long story. But I think at the same time we did the first half is happy and the second half is
interesting.
The
So it
second
is still
half is
kind
dark.
of A side, B side, but it's more of see, but
interesting.
It just kind of
tells the story.
Kind of in general, though, I do think that album pacing is a little bit of a lost art in the streaming era.
Absolutely.
And so I do appreciate the fact that you kind of thought about that. I also personally really love when hardcore and punk bands take aspects from another genre and kind of play off of that. I don't know if you're familiar with the Detroit hardcore band Bad Beat.
No.
But fantastic band.
Okay.
They released their album LP 2024. Very creative title.
12.
But they had a song that was just called Bad Beat Dub.
Oh my goodness.
And it was kind of a dub reggae thing that had some hardcore influences to it, and it was super cool. So I always love, and it was another little 30, 45 second interlude type of deal. So I always find that type of stuff really interesting personally.
Yeah, Yeah, you can definitely like, for me, like growing up, I've always like, oh, I listen to the album. Like I hit track 1 and I hit play, you know? And like, to me, that's how my brain has just always interpreted music. Like, oh, like, yeah, you get the singles, right? But like, you know, I've always been like, okay, well, this is track 5 off this album, you know? And so like that's how I personally like always perceive music. But like you can definitely tell like in the way, like again, no shame to like the modernity of like how music is going, but like it's very single focused. Like you have to stay relevant. So it's like single every 2 months or you know every whatever it is. So it's
that
just
waterfall release strategy
exactly
that we're talking about.
See, it's the only reason we did it.
Yeah.
It's like literally like one of my favorite bands. It is probably my favorite. Radiohead's my favorite, but second is Vampire Weekend, and they've done five albums, and they have, as an indie band, achieved levels that I don't think many have. You know, with 3 #1 songs, and it's an album. Just got that
statistic in your back pocket, huh?
I literally am thinking about. Yeah, it's my favorite fucking band.
I'm just giving you shit.
No, see me posting mad knowledge on the Vampire Weekend Reddit boards. But yeah, it's an album-centric band, and I think we would do right for society if we ventured back in. I'm trying to do 1,000 new albums, at least majority new to me. And I'm just asking people for recommendations, and I'm about 35 in, and it's so cool, man. I'm listening to music in a different way, and it's people who are sending me stuff that they're really passionate about. So most of the time I very rarely get one where I'm like, this is bad. I'm usually like, I see why this was important to this person, and I'm learning so much new stuff, and I'm starting to listen to music in a way I probably haven't since before I had Spotify. And, you know, so, why must I, guys, shoot me your album recommendations. I'm only at like 200 and I need 1,000. So
I'll talk to you a little bit more after this.
Local
I'll
artists
give you a
are
couple
welcome.
recommends.
Local small-time artists are welcome. So, yeah.
Hell yeah. So, kind of moving up, my next song, and again, kind of the reason why I love doing episodes with TOED is that you guys always, have very broad tastes in music. And so I can kind of bring some stuff that's outside of my general ballpark, and I know that you guys will appreciate it.
100%.
So this is kind of like an alt country artist. I have to give a huge shout out to my friend Sasha, who lives out in Phoenix, for sending this to me. She sent it to me and she just went, "This is Ryan Core." And I went, "Hell yeah. All right." So this is an artist called Joshua Quimby. He's based out of Nashville, Tennessee. And I think it's one of those things. Are you familiar with the idea that like once you're aware of something, you start seeing it everywhere?
Yeah, it's like the self-manifestation. Like
So this was an artist I'd never heard of, but then as soon as I heard this song, I started seeing their ads on like TikTok and Instagram everywhere.
It's Shabuzi, isn't it?
No. This is Joshua Quimby, and this song is "Speeding Tickets, Hot Coffee, Good Donuts, and Dank Weed."
Beautiful.
All right.
Speeding tickets, hot coffee, good donuts, and dank weed. Well, I'm a travel man, I spend my days on the open road, singing and slinging all these country songs I wrote. It ain't an easy life, but it's the life the soul boy leads. It's a life of speeding tickets, hot coffee, good donuts, and dank weed. Popo pulls me over in a one-horse town. I roll down my window and I'm met with a big old frown. Boy, there better not be a baggie of pot I see. That's my life of speeding tickets, hot coffee, good donuts, and dank weed. coffee, good donuts, and dang queen. Yes, yes.
That was tasty. That was good. It had a 12 bar almost boogie to it, and I like the breakdown with a good coffee.
Yeah.
It was very like rootsy. Like it felt just like.
Are we not going to wait for Simon? He's just going to bust through like the Kool-Aid man?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That would be magnificent.
Dude,
Actually, that would be fantastic.
Actually, yeah. Let's make sure that happens.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Let me give you some space. We kind of just busted into the conversation, you know, but that's kind of how this goes. I feel like, you know, nobody wants to wait until the end of the song to actually share their remarks, which is.
I also think, like, as I've been listening to these albums,
Yeah.
if you don't get your thought down the second it comes out, because you're getting so much stimulus throughout listening to an hour-long album, yeah, you gotta, especially lyrics for me, if it catches my attention, I have to pause and write it down. Otherwise, it's lost in the ethos.
So are you specifically trying to do like some journaling stuff, like with the album?
Well,
listening as well.
For those who don't know, I am a business analyst, statistician. So data nerd. I love creating 4 eyes. I don't wear glasses. Well,
I thought that was directed at me.
Well, I think all 4 of us wear glasses. Yeah. Simon just doesn't have his on. No, but so it was I was in a musical rut. I was basically listening to Vampire Weekend and Radiohead every day for the past year.
And people said, "Are you okay?"
Yeah. But no, as
the answer is no.
And as a songwriter, you know, I do glean a lot of inspiration from music and other musicians, and so I just sat down and I did see someone on Instagram doing the same thing, getting a lot of likes. So I do gotta say I stole it from her a little bit, but I went to Instagram and was like, hey, I'm trying to hear new music. Send me your recommendations. And the amount of people who I've reconnected with who are just excited to share me what they like it's kind of crazy. So that was the primary focus, but at the same time, I'm tracking a lot of data. I'm tracking the artist, I'm tracking the year, I'm tracking the number of songs, the minutes, length, the gender, and generation of whoever recommended it to me. And I'm gonna do a full-blown data analysis when I'm done.
I'm looking forward to seeing that, actually. That sounds cool.
And I do plan to do 10 videos, one for each 100 songs, and I'll break down top 5, bottom 5, and what the general statistics were. You know, I'm not going to do any like deep regression analysis, but it'll be interesting. So.
All right. Yeah. But yeah, man, this song, like, it's kind of funny. I've mentioned this several times on different episodes of the podcast, but like I have a very deep appreciation for like bluegrass type of music. It was something that there's a bluegrass festival up in Michigan's Upper Peninsula called the Hiawatha Music Festival out in Marquette, and that kind of like gave me like an appreciation for like bluegrass and like kind of alternative country that's not the country that you would hear on the radio most of the time. And I think that that's where I get the appreciation for stuff like this, where it is kind of, you know, has that like 12-bar blues kind of, you know, form to it, but is also, you know, very unique and fresh at the same time.
Yeah, and that's the like style of country too that like not to I guess just like go on the pedestal, but like that's what feels authentic, you know, like when it's like, oh, it feels rootsy, it feels like you're driving down a dirt road, it doesn't feel like it's, you know, try to like I guess be built up or portrayed in a way where they want to showcase that, but then they go on a yacht and a dirt private jet, you know, like the next day, like
post 9/11 propaganda music.
No, it's like I'm driving my dusty ass rusty pickup truck down a dirt road because this is what I can afford, and I'm just trying to get to my cottage, like, you know, like
Tyler Childers, Sturgill Simpson.
Yes.
Fuck with them.
Yeah,
Bingo.
Beautiful.
Maya loves Tyler Jones.
Oh yeah, dude.
I
He's
have
so good.
joked
Yeah,
about
so
that
does
so
Danny.
many times. Everybody's like, never forget 9/11. I'm like, never forget what 9/11 did to country music.
A cold
And
bear.
never forget the incredible South Park episode that mocked that entire cultural happening.
There's a Bo Burnham one on like radio country too. It's pretty good.
Fantastic. And I do just find it so funny. Like, you know, there's so many disingenuous country artists that, you know, it's trap music with a banjo and southern drawl on it, you know?
Yeah.
And I do appreciate the fact that, you know, the internet is kind of giving us a little bit of I don't know what a good word would be, but kind of like, you know, showcasing truly what, you know, good artists have to offer. And in the country, you know, country music vein, I've always said, I don't think people who say they hate country music hate country music.
Right.
I think that people who say they hate country music hate manufactured Nashville radio friendly.
Like, let's make a top number one hit.
Exactly.
And call it country.
Exactly.
Slap a country
And so
label on.
anytime I come across a good fucking country band that is gonna, you know, play real country music, I'm gonna talk about that shit.
100%.
I think that it's, you know, kind of a lost art in a way, and I really appreciate the artists that are doing it right.
Well, just say it, man. Country music is good music. I feel like so many people are just so quick to blanket. I think TOED in our blues essence has a lot of country influence. But it's, you know, I mean, people
Glenn Campbell, Southern Nights.
Oh, we're gonna do a Northern Nights parody, but it's gonna be like a serious parody about Northern. I fucking love that song. That song is so good. Anyway, that's my diatribe.
Yeah. I was gonna say I could go on a whole fucking rant about this, but I feel like I've been ranty enough this episode that we don't necessarily need
I don't
more
know
of
shit
that.
about cars. You know that song?
Yes,
Oh,
we've
it's so
actually
fucking good.
featured on an episode about a year ago.
And that guy's like big.
Yeah.
Now, man. Oh, that song is so good. I'm about to cover that at the next open mic. Man, that shit is so good.
Shout out to my boys Manor Gates from Columbus, Ohio, for deciding to feature that on an episode about
Song
a year
is
ago.
so good.
If when you're done with this episode, you're looking for more fresh finds, check out that episode. So as we're kind of moving on, what's our next tune here going to be?
Oh yeah, this is the one that's on Bandcamp.
Okay.
This is a group that I played with also with Bird's Eye View.
I gotta do another. I'm sorry.
And they were really cool because we
HL?
Yeah.
had a show lined up with another act, and that morning the act had to cancel on us.
Oh,
was
that's
really
a bummer.
Yeah, that's rough.
It was really tough. It was literally that morning, and we were playing. Where were we playing?
Old Miami.
Old Miami. Old Miami is super strict about, like, you got to have an artist for this time and an artist for this time.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
They send you like a crazy email of just like, it must be done this way, this way, this way, and this way. And then you get there and there's no one there, so it's like, like, did I have to do any of this?
I was going to say, yeah. Like,
The sound guy shows up at 2 a.m. He's like, how'd the show go?
But this band, they're called Dance Pack. I've seen them listed as the Dance Pack or just Dance Pack, or
it's just Dance Pack, all one word on Bandcamp.
yeah. Or I've seen Isaac Burgess and the Dance Pack. But they're really they filled in on a day's notice and delivered an incredibly tight set. Very hypnotic. People were comparing them to Red Hot Chili Peppers there, I remember, but more jammy essence to them. So just good vibes. Highly, if you need a band in a pinch, highly recommend Dance Pack. Yeah.
They'll play on 25-minute notice.
All right.
And do damn well, for real.
And we're going for round 2.
That was tasty. That was a good.
Yeah. Dude, the groove was infectious.
Very groovy.
It was almost hypnotic in a way. Just that bass line just kind of went for most of the song, but I really kind of dug it.
Do you know The Neighborhood?
Yes.
They've got a song. There was like this weird. This was after Sweater Weather, so they weren't quite as front and center. But it was like he was like one of those guys you see in New York City, painted head to toe, who does the like.
The robot
Yeah.
or whatever.
And the whole, it's a concept album about like one of those guys.
Oh, interesting.
You showed me that.
Yeah. But the song's called Devil's Advocate, and it starts out the same way, just very groovy and drum beat that kind of drives. Anyway, that's what it reminded me of. That would be my song comp if I was giving it to my producer.
Yeah, the way the kind of like breakdown about halfway through was also really cool. I mean, I'll mention a breakdown just about any time that it happens in a song because I just like the way that it kind of like changes up the vibe a little bit. But like specifically in this one, like there was just something that I'm kind of like, all right, yeah, this is like, it's still groovy, but it was like just in a different way. It was cool.
It makes me feel like how I imagine people in the 80s drove through nighttime Miami.
Dude, I was about to say like that, or like
cocaine.
I just walked into a disco club. It's like
I literally have a playlist called Driving at Night. It's like that exact vibe.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, dude, the groove really just like moved that track. Like it just like, you know, there was like always a step forward with it, you know. It's like the groove really just pushed everything through. And then like, yeah, the bass line on top was just like, there's so much movement, but like in the best possible way, you know. Like I dude, it'd be so cool to see that live too.
It's cool.
So,
they
like,
really sound like that live too. They were definitely one of the more unique live acts I've seen in Detroit. Highly recommend if you can see
To me, it honestly sounds like they'd be better live than they are in the studio. Because like, I mean, hearing like at the end, you know, you're starting to get the little like guitar solo elements and stuff like that. And if they are the types of musicians that I think they are based on hearing this song, then they're definitely going to jam on that and do kind of like extended, you know, instrumental jams and stuff like that.
I think that's kind of what the jam community has tapped into, though. They give you a taste.
It is.
Yeah,
you
want you to experience it
you
firsthand.
listen to the album and you're like, okay, I kind of get the general form of the song.
They give you a motif that's catchy.
Yeah, and then you go to see them live, and then you really kind of get to sink into it.
Our song, The Kitchen, the recorded version is like 4 minutes, but live I think it's like 7 minutes.
Yeah.
We very much do. There's a little jam band in TOED. For sure.
There was a friend of mine that like 6 months ago tried to get me into Fish because he's really, really into Fish.
Fish is one of those like you gotta be there.
And it was one of those things. He was like, "Oh yeah, recommended me a song off of like a bootleg album," and I like listened to it. I'm like, "All right, this is cool." And it was like 15 minutes for like one song, and I dug it. But I'm also like, I feel like I need to be there.
100%.
You know?
Well, I had a buddy take me to back-to-back nights of Goose, and I had heard of Goose, but I wasn't super.
I love Goose.
I am now a Goose super fan. Like honestly, I could not recommend them enough. They just had a new album come out 2 weeks ago, but honestly, I went to that show and I came home and was like, I need to reevaluate every priority in life. I was like, I have to play more music. Because they just felt so comfortable and good in create and expressing their musical gifts.
Yeah.
And I know that just comes from them playing night in, night out.
Right.
But anyway, that I divulged from the initial idea where the jam band community can be a little gatekeepery. So it's
a little bit.
It's very popular for like Fish fans and Dead fans to shit all over Goose fans. Like be like, fuck you. But it's because they are infringing on their territory as the next great jam band. Although Billy Strings is wildly accepted amongst those jam band fans too. So I don't get it. I mean, I don't understand how you can like jam music and not like Goose, because it's just Fish is fantastic, Goose is fantastic. I just don't get it.
I do think the older generation does hold up on like visual aesthetics when it comes to their music and their musicians, and I don't think that matters nearly as much to us in the era of streaming.
For sure.
Well, like I showed up to that Goose show. very little expectations outside of somebody who thinks I'm not necessarily a layman when it comes to listening to music, and I left so unincredibly inspired that I just don't think it's weird to me that you could like jam music and not like. Stop saying you don't or shit is bad. Like you are.
Just say you don't do it. Just say you haven't experienced it.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think that as I've matured, that has kind of been my philosophy. Is I'm slower to call things bad and more to kind of realize that it's just not made for me.
Not my cup of tea.
But there's still value behind it.
Exactly. Yes.
That's how I feel about. This is gonna sound weird. K-pop.
100%.
I do not find it for me. You know, I don't listen to it. But I was like on my Instagram the other day seeing a K-pop routine, and I was like, "Holy fuck, these guys are just performers like, at their core." Like,
well, yeah, you like think about that like aspect of it. It's like at the end of the day, like they're doing their goal is the same as mine.
Yeah,
you know, like so, like just because I don't resonate with their style, like it doesn't make it bad. I just can't resonate with it, which is fine. You know, to each in their own. You know.
Well, and that is the end goal of music. If you find a genre of music, despite what the zeitgeist may say about it, if it emotionally gets you to the place where you need to go, lap that shit up. That's what it's all about. If it's Taylor Swift, if it's K-pop, if it's Gigi Allen, I might warn you against Gigi Allen, but music's all about emotion and feeling like you're a kid again. Yeah. So if you like it, don't call it a guilty pleasure. Just fucking
call it a
own
pleasure.
It.
Precisely. I think that's really something that I've kind of like grown to appreciate over time. Is like, and even going back to like the last song that I played, I always for a long time was like, oh, country music is kind of my guilty pleasure. I grew up on it, and now I'm like, no, I just like the type of country music that I like, and that's the type that I like. Yeah. I mean, I have no ill will towards anybody who does something that's kind of like, in a style that I'm not a fan of. It's just that's just not what I'm into.
Absolutely. All right. Well, where are we at here? We got
you're up next. You're up next. Yeah.
Let's do Strictly Fine. Joining TOED on our album release show. One of the tightest bands in the game.
Quiet, please.
Tiger Woods, Junior.
dude, that song was so good. It was funky, but also, like you said, very relatable to my golf experience.
Yeah.
Of what was the line? It on the beach in the trees.
Yeah.
That's every single time that I've ever tried to play golf. That has pretty much been exactly my
Absolutely.
experience.
Also, sorry to cut you off.
You
Just
got it.
catchy as hell. I'm gonna be stimming on the
Get it on the
Tiger
green.
Woods. Junior.
Yeah, I was gonna say just like it had so much movement to it that you like couldn't help but just like, all right, like what's up,
They were a band that I saw play. I forget who they were even opening for. Actually, no. They weren't opening for anybody. I just remembered that. Just unlocked this in my brain. It was their album release show for their live album in 2022, Strictly Live Volume 1. Interestingly enough, an album release show for a live album. Kind of a funny deal. But I just went out to that one time because I had nothing else to do, and Lager House is within walking distance of my old place. But and they are just such a fun band that has so many amusing and also like terribly catchy tunes.
Yeah. They're from the musicianship standpoint, impressive, tight, unique. Yeah, one of my favorite local squads. So that's one of those groups I've admired from afar. Excited to get them on the TOED album release show.
Honestly, I was surprised that you hadn't played with them before, because I always thought, like, when I listened to TOED, that you guys were very much kind of in the same vein.
Yep. Well, we're going to put that to bed once and for all.
Nice. I also love how they kind of have like a comedic element to like their vocals as well. This one, obviously being kind of about being bad at golf, and that's like kind of a concept album about that. But they also one of my favorite songs of theirs from when I was kind of paying attention to them a little bit more was Team House Shoes, which is also a really fun one.
Like
about
they're
just
wearing shoes in the house.
It was about just not wanting to go out on a Friday night. I'm going to wear my house shoes instead. I'm going to, I forget the exact lyric, but basically just about not wanting to go out because I'm too tired from the week. I'd rather just sit on the couch and do nothing instead,
Yeah. Underrated use. Well, maybe it's an overrated use of time, but at certain times it's a great use of time.
Hey, it's an absolute necessity,
Also, I'm seeing, so that was a little while ago that they actually released this. I realize now that I have not been keeping up on Strictly Fine, because this was a 2023 release. November, so it was the end of 2023. It's only been like a year and a half-ish. Do you know if they're working on any new recorded material at this point, or largely just playing live at this point?
I don't. Well, they're gonna play live with us. I guess I don't know much else of that nature. But Tiger Woods Jr., a concept album for the ages.
Yeah. And I said, I do think that pairing is fantastic.
Well, appreciate that. I agree with you. All right, how many? We got two more?
Yeah, we got three more. So
Three
we got Matt's, and then we got the two that you guys kind of chose collectively.
All right, yeah. So for this next one, this is a band that, again, the first ever Times New Roman show, the bill was Heat Above, TOED, Times New Roman. And
when was this, by the way?
This was probably 2 to 3 years ago, I want to say.
Yeah,
okay.
It was before our first trip to New York, because Zach joined us for our first trip to New York because of that show.
Oh, okay.
It was February 2023, I think.
Yeah, it sounds about
winter,
right.
because it was a snowstorm, and we were like amazed they had power.
Oh yeah, because we showed up to the venue and they it smelled like gasoline.
It was just like an upstairs
and
like this big.
There was like one lady that was like,
Didn't speak any
we
English.
English.
we lost power, and I was like, well, how are we gonna play? Like, she was like, well, we got generators going. I was like, what?
All
Lo
right.
and behold, like she's talking about her house.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Oh.
I was like, well, why would you say that? You know?
I lost
like
power
extension
at
cords
home.
from
Yeah,
like
I lost my
across the
power
street.
at house, like at my house. But it's like, dude, okay, congratulations. You know, like so did a
Incredible.
lot of people. But no, anyway, like so we played with I just remember like Heat Above took the stage, and I just like remember watching them, and I was like, God damn, dude, these kids are rock stars.
Dude,
They
like,
are
They
good.
just had like the movements. They like you could tell that
The
they just
choreography.
they just had it. Like I remember,
Really?
I think the bass's name is Jack. Like, and forgive me, guys, if
Jack
that's
Davis.
not. Yeah,
Or
yeah.
Davis, maybe.
Yeah. But he like
That is an
he's-
iconic sounding
Right?
name, too.
That's why I remember it.
Yeah, he's jumping around. You know, he's doing the thing that's like, you know, why would anybody do this? But it's like, no. He's getting you up and like he's
Yeah.
getting you dancing, like he's walking around in the crowd, like, you know, like moving around. Like I was like, hell yeah. But I know like
You know-
since that time their lineup has kind of shifted a little
Okay.
bit. So now the at that time, and again I think
So-
his name is Brady.
It's Brady.
Brady
Wow.
was
Yeah,
the drummer. and now
Brady
he
was the
sings.
drummer.
Okay.
And now he sings and plays guitar.
Yeah. So-
because
Oh, interesting.
Michael Davis was the guitarist,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And he was really sick. But
yeah.
He
He
stepped
was.
away, and Jack plays the bass, but he plays it like he's like if you're watching him, you would think he's soloing on a guitar. The way
Yeah.
he like, moves his body is so awesome.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, there's something about that, though, because, like, there's so many times, I don't know if you guys relate to this, but I have a feeling you will, that, like, you go see a band and they're like, come on, get a little closer to the stage. Come on,
Yeah.
everybody get closer. And there's some bands that just have a magnetic energy to
100
them.
they're one of those
They don't have
bands.
to say that. Everybody
Yeah.
just instinctively gets closer to the stage. you
Is
know?
this their newest song? This just came out.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I was gonna say, like I can definitely tell, like they've like, you know, like it seems like they've been kind of like finding their sound maybe with their new lineup. You know, they got a new drummer, and like with Brady on the guitar and vocals. I don't know how much of an impact that has to like their songwriting style, but like it seems like they're definitely like sitting down more into like their niche. You know, like
Nice.
and yeah, it's like it's just like good like. Feel good alternative rock, you know, like they vibe, they rock, like they've got, you know, the punch behind it, and they they really just come forward. So yeah, this is their latest single called Let It Out.
I love just immediately out the gate, I love the chord choice of this song. Like it's not your very basic either a power chord or like a major minor. You were saying that it's probably like a suspended second or like
something,
you know, something like that. And I am a slut for a sus2 chord.
Dude.
I cannot get enough of it.
You and me both, man. Like, it's just it's like it's one note difference, but it's 100% character difference. Like it gives it that much more like character to it. Like, you know, it's just like we take the 1-4 or the 1-5 chord progression and we just like added a little bit more mood to it, you know? And
just a little bit.
Yeah.
I think the idea of dissonance within popular music, I think so few people understand that when you implement that, the resolve is so
Exactly.
tasty.
Yeah.
No, that's what it's all about. Is it's all about tension and release.
They're all getting played like puppets by these people. Like, this is how it, you know, this is how it plays.
A little peek behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, dude, that song, like, when I heard that song came out, I was like, okay, like, this is a new little sound for Heat Above. You know, they've always kind of had like the alternative, like pop rock kind of thing, but like, it seemed like this song just. They felt more confident maybe in their sound. Like,
sure.
And maybe I'm just grasping at straws here, but like, I don't know. It just like felt like it just came with so much more force, you know, like there's like a lot of edge, like Brady's vocals, like do just perfectly encapsulate like
you might
the sound
say
they're
the
going
heat
for.
is finally rising.
But yeah, like I feel like I've only had the chance to see him once, and I feel like every other time like they've been around, like stuff has been going on. But that's a band who I've seen has been grinding it out, like, and they are like making moves, and like seriously, like they deserve it. Like they are working their asses off, and they're making the right steps because they, you know. You can tell they have the chops, you know, and that's what it comes.
Are they based in the Detroit area?
I think
or are they from
Flint.
They're from Flint.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they're a little ways out, but not super far.
Yeah, they did
okay.
a like recent thing. I think they played the Machine Shop like not too long
They
ago.
play the Machine
Yeah.
Shop a lot, but I think that was a big one for. I think they might have headlined.
Yeah,
Oh,
which is like
okay,
like that. Yeah, it's just sick, you know. Like, dude, you hear the Machine Shop's like, oh, that's.
We actually
that's
played
spot,
a
you know?
gig at Back to the Bricks as a result of Heat Above. They played Thursday night, and they gave us the next 2 nights, and we got paid really well, and it was like right on their strip, and we just went out there and did like Johnny Be Good and other
We got
bluesy
paid
shit.
really
Yeah, we got paid.
well.
Nice.
Simon had that effect he always has when he gets out there, where some drunk 60-year-old lady is like, "You look like Jim Morrison."
The old ladies love
Yeah, they always love it. You sound and look like Jim Morrison. But yeah, Heat Above really embodies, at least from afar, it seems like they embody the lifestyle of really what it takes. You know, you record, you gig, you book shows, you do the algorithm, you do what you can do with what you got.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, it feels like Heat Above doesn't leave an opportunity, no stone unturned.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a thing, especially when you're starting out, is you really can't say no to a whole lot of stuff. You just, for a little while, you have to be a bit of a yes man to really find your, to find your audience, to find your people. And it from what you're talking about, it sounds like that's, very much kind of in their wheelhouse.
That just makes me think of like pay to play shows, and like how I remember we used to feel the need, like we needed to play somewhere, right? So it was like, we'll take any opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's when you end up in these like circumstances where venues are
Very
like,
predatory.
you have to pay us $200 if you want, and you'll make money back, we swear. But like, no, you won't. Like,
You never do.
I actually think we met Heat Above at a pay-to-play show. So it might have been pretty early on in both of our trajectories.
Really? That's funny.
But I remember walking away from that show being like, there was us and there was Heat Above.
yeah, and 7 other bands for some reason. And we all paid the venue $200 to play there.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, don't do pay to
Yeah,
say
don't do
yes,
it.
but don't, especially if they're trying to get you to do multiple markets.
Yeah.
Defend yourself.
That is
Know your worth.
that is a pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
But I will say, going back to like the song itself for a second here, I also really love the guitar solo. We were kind of talking about that as we were listening to it too, because there's something very simple about it. It's not super flashy. If you posted it on Instagram, everybody would scroll past it.
Everybody should.
But in the middle of the song, where it sits, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of like a unison bend thing, which is personally one of I learned the song "Done with Drugs" by the Dirty Nil, who are a Canadian punk band.
Okay, yeah.
But I learned that song, and that's where I discovered this unison bend thing, which is basically where you play like an upside down power chord, and you bend with your your ring finger up to the unison note. And they did this in this solo, and it was like kind of out of tune, and then you just barely bring it right into tune.
Yeah, just off
and it's like
enough,
it's
but
so
it's
tasteful
way.
in a beautiful
good
way.
ears, man, that you could. I mean, it must be something you've played a lot and you're playing, but I would never.
It's also the producer ear a little bit. You just listen to a lot of stuff. You start to recognize patterns.
That's the goal. Every musician should. We want our ears to be that good.
Timing and tuning, baby. Ryan, to your point, I think it's just done in such a way where it does feel just raw. And that's what I think I really like about this song too, is it's radio ready. It's ready to hit the charts, but it does have that raw organic feel. Like it has that,
That's a sweet spot.
That energy, that just all right, here we go. We've got nothing it's us against the world, and I love that. I can hear that stance in the song,
I feel like that's the embodiment of that kind of DIY sound that we've been talking about for so long. But it really is this is a song that is so good that if you listen to it on the radio, you would love it. But it's just not quite to that level yet. You're still kind of playing, the dive bars and shit.
They'll get there one day. They'll get there.
100%.
We'll all get there one day.
Hell yeah. So I believe we have 2 more songs left. We kind of chose these as a group in a way. Simon, this is probably the good one for you to introduce here.
So if you don't know, I'm in another band called Bird's Eye View, and we like to describe our sound as power slop with a little bit of edge. But I think most
power
people
slop is fantastic.
Most people who hear us would probably just say grunge. But yeah, this is our first song ever written as well as released. We wrote this song 2 years ago now, before I was even in TOED. But Bird's Eye View is definitely less organized than TOED, so we'll get shit out eventually.
That's the slop aspect of it.
There you go.
They got a lot of power, but they also got a lot of slop.
This is our self-titled song. It's called Bird's Eye View, Bird's Eye View, Bird's Eye View in all caps, which makes it really difficult to find.
With
an umlaut.
There
is an umlaut
over the Y's. Yeah.
Just to be cool. Yeah.
Which the Y is not a letter you typically umlaut. So
not typically. I'm not a linguist.
Strike a match, light a cigarette. Taxman has come to collect his debt. Feel a chill fill up your lungs. Line up the streets, bodies still being hung. Where'd you go? Out on your own, watch your breath.
Dude, that was
It's
fun.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
Powerful for sure.
Yeah, I had started that band to kind of get all the screams out, you know.
I definitely get the grungy aspect of it. One of the things that immediately stuck out to me, like production wise, listening to it, is the vocal layering. I like the number of like doubles and stuff that you did, like, you know, a little bit of delay on it, just adding like kind of some texture and some width to the vocal in a really interesting way. I like that a lot.
I'm glad it comes out well, because like when we're recording, that's got to be my least favorite thing ever. Is like, you know, like especially on a song like that where I'm screaming and just like being in the studio and then hearing a voice in another room be like, do it again. All right,
Not good enough.
Let me get some water.
Dude, yeah, you get so in your head doing that. It's just like, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. You know.
Then you mess it up because you're overthinking it. Yeah.
And then
And then it turns out you always use the first one you did anyway.
Literally.
Well, especially with the doubles too, you know, you're getting so many of them, and it's like maybe the first one is going to be the main one that you're going to use, but you're also going to double all of these together. Yeah, and so like, and I feel like from a producer's standpoint, you don't want to tell the vocalist that you're just doing it for doubles, because you want them to give just as much effort as they did for the main vocal.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, it really is like, no, we got it like 6 takes ago. I'm just getting extras just to layer it at this point.
I've always had to tell people like, let's just do one more. You know,
one more for safety.
Yeah, one more, and that's 30 more takes.
Also, always tell them you're not recording on the first take.
No, 100%. You always record when you tell them that you're just trying to get levels, because that means that they're not thinking that they're recording, and you're gonna get the best take.
You're gonna get it's the it's the freest. You know, they're like, all right, I'm just doing it. I got no stress.
That's what we in the biz call the red light syndrome.
Yeah.
You see the little red light and you get scared.
You guys getting prostitutes?
No,
that's the red light district.
Yeah.
Well, same shit.
But no, Simon, that song, like, dude, like it, like it came out strong, and I was like, oh, this is just grungy. And then like that point in the middle, it just like breaks into like, like it's got that
little ska section,
like, that I thought was just like so cool. Like I always look for like earworms, like something that like either gets stuck in my ear or something that just like completely
that piques
catches
your
me,
interest a little bit.
something that catches me completely off guard. And to me, like when I listen to things, I'm like okay, like I'm just like, you know, because a lot of times you listen to music like, oh, you're cleaning the house or you're just like driving around.
Yeah,
you know,
you gotta
like,
have something to pull you away.
there's something that just like,
Exactly.
oh shit, like did I really just hear that? And then literally I'm like, start the song over, you know, like so like
it's why you're listening to music in the first place.
Yeah.
But it gets back to that literally anyone who's listening to that can go, yeah, I'm in it. I'm in it.
Yeah.
That's why it's the climax of every Bird's Eye View song show.
We
You're
found
like, you're ready to fucking go.
No matter how dead the crowd is at a show, at that point in the show, we always have people moving up to the front.
The acceleration too, accelerando, if you want to talk in musical terms,
with
but
an
in Italian.
I'm not that smart.
But I always love that too, because it's a way to like, especially when you do it gradually, you know, it's like, ooh, it's starting to get a little bit faster. And then by the time you get to the end of it, you're like, oh, it's double time. And everybody's just going fucking crazy.
I feel like by the end, it's just like, dude, I want to fucking two-step. Man. Like, I'm ready to throw bows.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Like, someone's going to get hurt.
No, I can't believe that this is the only tune that you guys have officially released so far. I can't wait to hear some more from
vault,
it.
don't you?
We recorded that one along with like 4 other songs that are all just waiting to.
Do you know? Is there a plan to put it out as like an EP or anything like that, or is it kind of just like as songs are finished, we'll release it type of deal?
So, like I said, we're pretty disorganized. There's a lot of really fun ideas, you know, being thrown around, but who knows what's actually going to stick to the wall. But I think the idea with Bird's Eye View has always been like, it's not, I guess it's not like a a main band because it's like it's a side story that we're trying to tell, if that makes sense. But yeah, I've always loved bands like the Gorillaz or just like bands that are more of a concept than an actual band, if that makes sense.
Okay, sure.
But yeah, so the idea of the Bird's Eye View has always been that eventually it will evolve into more of like a story rather than just a musical outlet.
Like how Prince
Interesting.
got a guy from his ex band to start like a rival band, and they didn't
Exactly.
actually hate each other.
Actually,
but,
that is exactly the idea that we took from
Maybe
Really?
Toad should fucking
So-
hate Bird's Eye.
so-
We're just too different of
Like,
genres, so
down-
that's the
Fight,
issue.
fight,
Yeah.
The idea
But it's
is
all marketing.
the
I
story-
need both of these bands, but I hate the other ones.
The story we've been working on is that Bird's Eye View is in a fight with their record label, Shadow Records, and that's
Shadow.
that's why
Records.
currently no music has been released.
Ah,
But-
okay, all
but
right.
you got to do like the groundwork of like doing a little cryptic post here and there to like establish the lore.
dude, that's
you know what I mean?
But this is the issue with modern day marketing, where ain't nobody giving a fuck about
yeah,
that.
you gotta.
know?
That's why you gotta create
Well,
something.
and also you're now giving away your whole gimmick.
But it's so good.
But
it's so good.
I think the idea, like with Bird's Eye View, is we just wanted to tell a story, and then
Yeah.
the music is kind of like how you advertise the story, right? Like,
Yeah.
maybe someone will hear the song and then they find out the story we're telling, right? So it's like two separate artistic projects, but one's kind of just marketing for the other.
Well, yeah, and that's what's like really cool about like just art in general is like, dude, there's so many like you can go through so like or multiple mediums to tell a story, you know, and like you're saying like, oh, like we like music is almost like not to say an afterthought, but it's like that was not the forefront of like the story we're trying to tell. Like music was like
World-building.
it was like the soundtrack to the
Yeah.
story,
Yeah.
you know, like yeah. So it's like
The lore.
it's just like yeah, like that's so cool to like because it's like now at that point it's like all right, well it's not just a band, it's not just an album. Oh, it's like oh, there's a whole like story, like there's a whole arc, like a whole like artistic, you know,
Yeah.
like multi-medium like thing, you know, like
Yeah.
behind it. Which I like, dude. I always respected like bands that are able to like just see that extra step, you know.
And
like-
I also think no one has ever had commercial success without creating that world.
Without some sort of-
yeah.
yeah, I think
Like,
like
it's a requirement.
Even
like,
the Beatles have their own characters that like the Blue Meanies and shit.
yeah,
Yeah.
like in summary,
Fucking
like
Paul McCartney died and the
Yeah.
vagina apples. You know?
Yeah.
well, I'm like thinking of like Coheed and Cambria, you know, it's like, dude, their
God,
whole
if
like,
you want to get really deep into
yeah,
it,
like their
Yeah.
whole music is based on like the story of the Amory Wars.
It's a
you know,
space
like,
opera.
It is
Yeah.
exactly. And so it's
I
like,
mean, Zeppelin was basically a pseudo Lord of the Rings. You know,
Yeah, you have a point there. There was
Yeah.
definitely
and Pink Floyd was Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
So
we are the perfect number of beers deep right now. This is fantastic.
I
this
could
is
do a few
great.
more. I
So-
could do a few more.
So what we're getting at, Simon, is you guys have been related or compared to Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, like
Oh, and Prince.
Yeah.
Don't
and
forget
Prince.
Prince.
Yeah.
That's us basically. Yeah.
So no pressure.
All right, so moving on to the final episode of the evening, really going to round this out on a high note.
Hell yeah.
You want to introduce this guy?
Yeah, well, I will just say it's Ambrosia Blue. It's another peer of ours in the Detroit scene. Lucas Corona is the main driving force, at least to my knowledge. They've been around for a while. We've done a few shows with them. It's got a very nostalgic retro vibe. I very much am reminded of the Beatles when I listen to them. Very similar chord progressions. It's good stuff. I mean, they're working on new shit. So they're in a new era. I'm excited to see what that looks like. So, but yeah, without further ado, this is I Want to Fight About It.
I wanna fight about it. I wanna dive right in, take my prize and win, and I really wanna fight about it. I wanna shake that door, maybe steal some more, and I really won't think twice about it. Give me 5 minutes to let it go. I'm never gonna see him again. I wanna fight about it. I wanna shake that door, maybe steal some more, and I really wanna fuss about it. Where's that shore where we tried so Where's that shore that you tried so hard? And I really won't think twice about it. Give me 5 minutes to let go. I'm never gonna see him again. When the dancing stops and you really wanna fight about it, not so wrong, and you don't think twice about it. Tell me something, boy. Where's that chance? And when the dancing stops and you really wanna fight about it, not so wrong, and you don't think twice about it. Tell me something, boy. Where's that chance? The mountain stands strong even when it's so wrong. I can't stomach what goes on and on and on. Yes, it stands strong. What's the reason so wrong? I can't feel what is happening. Oh no, wanna fight about it.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, very just nostalgic vibes,
Yeah.
good vibes.
They do it. I feel like maybe the reason I think they're it reminds me of the Beatles. Oh shit. Because they do a cover of "Help" that is very much
interesting.
in the vein of that song. But I feel like the playful choruses and the chord progressions are Beatles E.
Yeah.
But
Also, I also get a lot of like Ramones.
Well, now that you say that, I was like, dude, I immediately was like Ramones, and then now you say like Help. It's like, ah, shit, dude. Like, yeah, that is like very got that 50s rock and roll, like, you know, like
in those clubs in Liverpool,
or like that
where we
twist
go.
and shout.
Yeah,
like it's
twist
just, but
and
like, dude, it's
shout.
got like, yeah, that movement is great, and like, but like, yeah, like. It's combining like different, very nostalgic like aspects into like one song. Like it's so
Absolutely.
cool. Like,
and they want to fight about what they're excited about whatever they
They
are
want to fight
passionate
about it.
for.
Whatever
Yes.
it
whatever
may
it
be.
is, yeah.
It might be the Lions. It might be the.
There's nobody
I
who wants to
definitely
fight about
wanted to
it
fight
more
when-
than
when they
Kai
get-
about it with regard to the Lions.
I will
But,
say, I like music where I know that the artist is a cool person.
Yeah.
And knowing these guys personally, they're great people. So
Yeah.
it
Great
always-
people, great
It
people.
always adds just like a little, you know.
That's Fresh Fine's whole vibe, right?
Yeah.
Talking
Hell yeah.
music with good people.
Good
Yeah.
music with good people, baby. That's what I'm talking about.
yeah, so I was just saying, like, I stumbled upon these guys. Like, me and a couple buddies went out to like I don't know. We just went out to this bar to see like some music, and like these guys ended up being there. Lo and behold, like, you know, we met up and like had mutual connections and stuff. But like these guys came out. They were a 3-piece at the time. Not sure if they still are, but yeah, they were just like, here we are, boom, and they just came out like super strong, and yeah, you could tell they just like had the drive, you know. And I think
Yeah.
like it's like, yeah, like that aspect is like really fun to like.
We might want to take a pause. LB's about to walk in.
A few moments later.
All right, where are we at? Last song, right?
Really want to fight about it.
Wanna
Yeah.
fight about it.
The other thing that you were kind of mentioning is the fact that this is like a very dry mix, not a whole lot of reverb. You know, kind of dry vocals, dry guitars. Very much, you know, kind of sounds like you recorded it and then you kind of leveled it and called it a day. And I think it's really funny. I saw an amazing tweet from Keegan, who is the guitarist of the band Camp Trash.
Okay.
Who are now from Florida, but they were originally all from Great Lakes area a while back. But amazing tweet that was like, every decade is defined by either not enough reverb or too much reverb. And there has never been an in between.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Their production kind of reminds me of the Misfits, if you ever listen to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Very good. That's a very good connection there.
Another
Text
kind
to
of like
world.
proto punk type of deal. Yeah.
Yeah. Where like in its own right, like it stands the test of time. Like it's good. Like, you know, but like you can tell it's like we're not gonna overthink it, you know, like, dude, we're like a couple dudes, like, let's fucking just record some guitars,
Let's get some
music
and,
out,
like
yeah.
drums, you know,
I
like
was crying on Saturday.
Yeah, like-
night.
dude, I've always respected that about like bands who like can like capture the like raw element by but still make it feel like, you know, user friendly or like,
Yeah.
you know, in a way to like be like, okay,
Approachable.
Well, like, yeah, exactly. Like, cause like, and I think honestly, like I've been very impressed with like every band on these lists or the list that we've come up with. Like everybody sounds good. Like there's like, and I'm sure Ryan, you could probably attest to this. Like as a producer, like you only hear like bad things that stick out. You know, it's like if like something is good, like it's like okay, like cool. You know, but like it's either like you hear things that are like, oh, that's really sick, or you hear things that's like, oh, like that's really bothering me.
Yeah, I have quite literally said that a song is finished mixing when I can put it on while I'm doing the dishes and not go, ooh, I hate that.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as you can put it on in the background and not pay attention to it, that means that it's, like, ready to go.
But I think the nature of this whole process that you do with Fresh Finds, like, you bring on people who are musically inclined.
Yeah.
They do their research, and I think very rarely you're going to get somebody who is going to recommend you a song that hasn't spoken to them.
Yeah.
Whether, you know, and I think it goes through that filtration process where, you know, if you're having somebody on the show, they're probably worth something. And if they're worth something, what they think is, you know,
exactly.
It's a Plinko effect. Like,
finally trickle down economics actually works.
At least in music.
But
not in capital investment.
But you are 100% right about that. I think that, you know, musically inclined people, even if it's not something that is necessarily up my alley, and that has happened a couple times, but you know, it's something where I can find the value in it somewhere. You know, whether it's like, oh, there's an interesting rhythmic thing or something. There's not a lot of these times that have happened, but if you ever listen to an old episode and I'm just like talking about like only one thing and never mentioning anything else about a song, that probably means it's a song that I wasn't super into. Because I'm like, this is the one thing that I like that I think is merit, you know. But
well, that's how it goes sometimes. I guess.
Exactly. Kind of getting to the end of the episode, because that was the last song. We're starting to peter out a little bit. Is there anything else that you guys want to mention one more time about TOED, about new music, about new shows? Anything one more time? You have the floor.
Well, I'm going to say some things, then I'm going to pass it to Simon, and then Matt if he's interested. But TOED is releasing our debut album, full length. It's going to be about 40 minutes at the Loving Touch on June 21st. And it has been a labor of love. It has been a collaboration of brothers. It has been a fixation on personal expansion and creativity. And I'm excited to share it with the world. And probably one of my proudest accomplishments will be releasing it. So I hope if you hear this and you want to come out and see it, you can enjoy the music. And yeah, TOED, June 21st. TOED by TOED. You're going to get TOED by TOED. Yeah.
June
Simon?
20th for the album.
June
21st for the album release show at the Loving Touch.
You were tight on that earlier, and now you have corrected myself.
You have corrected in your own game, man.
And May 9th, if it hasn't already happened yet when this comes out, is the Out to Sea release. And I'm very excited for that. I really like that song.
It's a brainchild of Simon's that is beautiful. And May 10th, we're playing in NYC. I think it'll probably be after May 10th, but
definitely considering that's only 6 days away.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's going to be past that at that point.
I thought it was March.
Man, this has been the Fresh Finds Podcast, the show about discovering new music with good people.